What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 4 nanoseconds Chapter 91 Stupid, this is science, 5th more. Advertisement Chapter 91 Stupid, this is science, 5th update. A pterosaur, flying in the sky, still burning with flames. Accelerator has never seen this kind of creature before, but what is certain is that this guy is very difficult to deal with. Hey, you are the director of Impel Down, the pervert who likes punishment, Jin? Corazon's figure flickered and appeared on this fierce-looking pterosaur, and said with a smile. When seeing this pterosaur, Corazon immediately thought of Kaido of the Beasts, one of the future 3 plagues, the Flame Disaster. It's just that I didn't expect that this guy was actually the director of Impel Down during this period, which is on a par with Admiral. When did you come to my back? Jin turned his head in disbelief, looked at Corazon and asked nervously. This speed was comparable to teleportation, especially since the person involved was the notorious demon Corazon. It made Jin's heart beat rapidly in an instant. Well, I came up when you were cheating, Corazon said lazily. Vector control can control the kinetic energy of all forces, including his own power of course, but Jin has never noticed it. Hiss. Jin gasped, and looked at Corazon in disbelief. The reason why he didn't want to join the battle was because of fear. After all, he was facing Corazon who captured Zephyr Admiral alive. He had no idea of fighting at all, and only wanted to wait for the support of Marine or world government. Can't help him. Jin clenched his paws tightly, let out a roar, and kicked Corazon with one foot. The tip of the claws was extremely sharp, as if piercing through the air. Corazon grinned, and his black pupils released killing intent, making Jin feel cold all over. Accelerators, vector control, is an absolute defense with no dead ends, come and try it. Unprepared. Seeing Corazon leaning on his back with a lazy look, Jin didn't dare to be careless at all, and quickly covered armament hockey with the tips of his fingers, making this blow even more powerful. Corazon didn't care at all, and directly reached out and grabbed the tip of Jin's claw. The tip of the claw pierced Corazon's palm, and Jin suddenly felt a strong rebound force, and all the force returned intact. His body shook violently and creaked. With a sound of pung, Jin spat out a mouthful of blood, transformed into a human form in midair and fell straight down. What kind of ability is this? Jin clutched his chest and said in pain. At the moment just now, he felt as if his chest was hit head-on by a sledgehammer, almost killing him on the spot. Vector manipulation. The corners of Corazon's mouth curled up slightly, and he applied a vector to his right leg, sweeping across. Jin's pupils shrank. Corazon's mere defense caused him serious injuries. This kick, he didn't dare to neglect, and quickly covered armament hockey with his hands to resist. Boom. Jin suddenly felt that his internal organs were shaken, his head went blank, and he hit the ground of Impel Down with a bang, making a huge pothole. This is vector control, which can control the direction of energy. As long as the skin is touched, the kinetic energy can be freely manipulated, but if I tell you, you probably won't understand it. As soon as Lasong stretched out his hand, the air quickly blew up the wind, and Song fell to the ground slowly as if stepping on a strong wind. Well, you don't have any loyalty to Marine anyway, how about following me? I'll let you be the deputy director of Impel Down. Corazon smiled with his hands open. Impel Down. Jin clutched his chest, the thoughts in his heart were overwhelming. How did Corazon know that he was not loyal to Marine, and what does it mean to make him the deputy director of Impel Down? After thinking about it in every possible way, Jin nodded slowly, and the next moment, he turned into a flaming pterosaur and set off a berserk wind, fleeing toward the sea at top speed. Advertisement, Director Jin. The jailer on the ground of Impel Down saw this scene and roared in disbelief. As the director of Impel Down, he escaped. At this moment, the sky of those jailers has collapsed. Totally no match. If I continue, I will only have a dead end. Jin muttered to himself in horror, not daring to look back at all. Really, do you still think you can run away? Corazon smiled slightly, and pointed his right hand at the flame pterosaur that flew thousands of meters away. Universal pull. Boom. Jin's figure stopped in an instant, and fell into the seawater with a plop, moving and stilling, and the strong kinetic energy impact almost made him faint on the spot. Return. A powerful attraction enveloped Jin's body, and Jin's body made rumbling impacts on the sea surface like floating in water. When Jin was about to approach Impel Down, Corazon took a deep breath and exhaled towards Jin. The exhaled air directly turned into a huge tornado, rolled up a huge seawater, and attacked Jin. Seeing this scene, Jin froze. This unscientific. Fool, this is science. Jin's body smashed into the tornado, leaving countless wounds all over his body like knives, continuously spitting blood, and embedding hard on the ground of Impel Down. Before he could react, Corazon stepped on top of his head. At this moment, Jin's face changed drastically, and he shouted in horror. I promise you, join your empire. He had a hunch in his heart that if he disagreed, he would really die. Then what are you doing with the monitor bug in your hand? Corazon smiled, and put his finger on Jin's shoulder 433. It seems that you were really scared, betrayer. The heart rate is above 150, the blood flow is very fast, and the bioelectricity is very disordered. Corazon smiled slightly and said, to me, touch kills, maybe you don't understand, simply put, the moment I touch you is your death. As he said that, Jin's face changed drastically, and he suddenly felt that his heart stopped beating, his blood flowed retrogradely, and the capillaries all over his body burst, and his whole body was dripping with blood in an instant. Jin completely lost his mobility and was completely unable to resist, looking into Corazon's eyes, as if looking at a demon. A true demon. In order to teach you a little lesson, and to let you understand my ability, let you experience the ability of vector control, first cut off the blood supply to your left hand, and then go retrograde. A sound from Peng. At this moment, the blood in Jin's left arm burst against the flow and turned into blood mist. Ah! Jin suddenly screamed in pain. His heart beat to a limit, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and completely lost consciousness. Seeing Jin fainted from the pain, Corazon didn't take it seriously, grabbed the phone monitor bug casually, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and said, "The opposite is Kong. In order to thank you for everything you have done to my family, I reluctantly took compel down away, don't thank me." Chapter 92 Masaka Makoto and Bee-Eater Masaki open black lens bracket 6th close black lens bracket. Advertisement Chapter 92 Masaka Makoto and Bee-Eater Masaki open black lens bracket 6th close black lens bracket. IDFK. This phone bug has contacted two parties, one is Naval Headquarters and the other is Kizaru Vice Admiral. Kizaru looked at the phone bug in his hand wanting to cry without tears, wishing to slap himself. Nima, he came out on a mission, why did he bring this sad phone monitoring bug? Wouldn't it be enough to have a phone bug for communication? When Kong calls, he just throws it away, as if he didn't hear it, and it's over, but the phone bug is monitored 24 hours a day. MMP. Now, the words in this, did he hear it or not? Kong shattered the desk in front of him with a fist, grabbed the phone bug and shouted anxiously, Jin, call back if you hear it. Damn it, impel down fell so quickly, that nasty brat. Yellow ape. Ah, why did the two phone bugs fall into the water? They fell too deep to be retrieved. Kizaru threw the two phone bugs into the water at lightning speed, and shouted anxiously. Hurry up, go back to Naval Headquarters, what if I can't hear any information? Yes, Kizaru Vice Admiral. After hearing this, the Marine under Kizaru yelled loudly, quickly turned the sails, and sailed towards Naval Headquarters. Kizaru. If you dare to throw the phone bug at me, I will kill you when you come back. There were two bubbling roars from the water, which made Kizaru's body tremble, and with a bitter face, he picked up the two hard-working phone bugs struggling on the sea surface again. Ah, it's a good thing I rescued the phone bug. Although I'm exhausted, I still want to keep the phone bug safe, Kizaru said righteously. Don't talk nonsense to Lousy. I order you to go back and rescue Impel Down Administrator Jin now, and if you have a chance, grab Doflamingo by the way. The support from Naval Headquarters and World Government will arrive soon, Kong roared loudly road. Kizaru pouted, he believed Kong, World Government, those bastards wouldn't do such a thing of losing troops. Even if they came to support, it had to be the case that all the Marines were present, and now the Naval Headquarters were almost wrapped up as mummies, and they still supported. Kizaru was worried that they would have trouble walking. Don't make a fool of Lousy, if you don't go to support, your salary for the next 10 years will be deducted, Kong roared angrily. He can't help it, now that Naval Headquarters has good arms and legs, only Huang Yuan is alone. Moreover, Kizaru is still the shining man who ate the shining fruit. If he was not allowed to go, Kong would feel sorry for that shining fruit. 10 years. Kizaru rubbed his chin, thinking about it. Comparing 10 years of salary to my life, it doesn't seem to be much. Give it to Lousy quickly, or Lousy will deduct all of her pension. Kong blew his nose and eyes, and slapped the wall angrily. Leadership without humanity. Kizaru muttered something with a bitter face, and then responded, looking in the direction of Impel Down with grief and indignation. For the pension, I fought. Advertisement. Kizaru's face showed the righteousness to die generously, and instantly turned into a flash of light and disappeared on the warship. Your Majesty, I have defeated an enemy, but it seems to be a heavy hand. He has no thunder? A girl with shoulder-length brown hair, also brown pupils, wearing a school uniform, about 1.6 meters tall, said worriedly while holding a man wearing an impel-down uniform with an unusually fierce appearance. My lord, it's all right, his heart hasn't stopped yet. A girl with brown hair, twin ponytails tied with a bow, said with a nympho look on her face. Masaka Makoto, you be ******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* A girl with long honey-colored hair, a slender waist, slender hands and feet, and a plump chest unlike a junior high school student, but with delicate features like a doll said angrily. Well, Masaka Makoto, Shirai Kuroko, Shokuhou Masaki, stop arguing, this guy won't die, and I will remember all the credit. Corazon shrugged helplessly and looked at the girls. Excluding Shirai Kuroko, Masaka Makoto and Shokuhou Masaki are both level 5, that is, people with superpowers. Although their strength is not as good as Accelerator, they are still comparable to the top vice admiral in this world. But it may be because they are all at the age of 15 or 16. Although Masaka Makoto and Shokuhou Masaki are super strong, their personalities do not appear to be very mature. Otherwise, if you just observe, you will find that people in this world have very strong physiques. As long as they don't penetrate the heart, they generally can't die. That's good. Masaka Makoto breathed a sigh of relief and patted his flat chest. She was really afraid that with a super electromagnetic gun, she would kill the person who threatened her with a knife. In other words, this guy is really unlucky. Corazon turned his head to look at Shiryu of the Rain on the ground with pity in his eyes. No matter how unlucky Magellan is, if he meets Accelerator, he won't be beaten like this. After all, he has to be taken back to do farm work. In contrast, Shiryu of the Rain faced a full 6 superpowers and he was lucky not to die. Wow. Just as he was thinking about it, Shiryu spat out a mouthful of blood, opened his eyes in a daze, and just saw Corazon's sympathetic gaze. He was so frightened that he suffocated, his neck tilted, and he passed out again. It's actually the king of the empire, the demon Corazon. Okay, Shokuhou Masaki, tell those guys to go to Impel Down and get ready to move. Corazon cast a glance at Shiryu of the Rain, kicked him directly into Impel Down, and then looked at Shokuhou Masaki and said confession. Understood, your majesty. Shokuhou Masaki smiled sweetly, made a horizontal V-shaped victory gesture at the corner of his eyes, and finally looked at the jailers who were kneeling on the ground in despair, and immediately let them walk into Impel Down like walking dead. It's really a convenient ability. Corazon applauded and clapped his hands. Although Shokuhou Masaki ranked 5th in Academy City, his strength is not ordinary. He is the strongest spiritual ability user in Academy City, and his ability is called Psychological Mastery. For example, memory reading, talking to distant objects, thinking elimination, will enhancement, thinking reappearance, emotion transplantation. Single-handedly handle all mental phenomena, like a Swiss knife-like omnipotent superpower. Your majesty, for the sake of being so obedient, can you let Masaka Makoto be my servant for a day? Shokuhou Masaki hugged Corazon's arm and said sweetly. Corazon looked at Masaka Makoto who was aggrieved, and Shirai Kuroko who had a silly smile on his face, smiled slightly, turned his head and looked aside playfully, and said. Let's study this matter later, let's take a look now, what is my brother Kizaru doing here? Chapter 93 Dig a good grave for Kizaru, 7th. Makoto Masaka. Advertisement Chapter 93 Dig a good grave for Kizaru, 7th. Masaka Makoto, Shirai Kuroko, Shokuhou Masaki turned their heads in doubt. Who is it? Why didn't they see it? Following a sound of footsteps, Accelerator dragged the bloody Magellan out of Impel Down, casually threw Magellan on the ground, and looked towards the entrance of Impel Down with a frown. The king told you to get out, can't you hear me? At the end of speaking, Accelerator let out a cold shout, and stepped heavily on the ground. Violent airwaves spread out from Accelerator's feet. Boom. Under Masaka Makoto's and Shokuhou Masaki's suspicious eyes, the violent airwave bombarded an empty space, but it seemed to have collided with the air, and a figure jumped out and was knocked out. What the hell kind of ability is this? Without armament hockey, even light can attack. Kizaru muttered a few words, then noticed several gazes cast over him, and his body instantly petrified. Turning his head stiffly, seeing Corazon's half-smile expression, he felt a thump in his heart. It's over, the pension is gone. It's not right. Kizaru almost burst into tears. At this time, he still cares about a woolen pension, and his life is almost gone. 137, Brother Corazon, in fact, I came here this time just to catch up with you. Look, we brothers, we haven't seen each other for so long. I miss you. Kizaru put a smile on his face, and smiled flatteringly. Corazon hugged Kizaru's shoulders in relief, causing Kizaru to shiver, and the hairs all over his body stood on end. My life is out of my hands, Kizaru thought with tears in his heart. But in this situation, he couldn't even run away, not to mention Corazon, the white-haired demon who has been looking at him coldly. I'm afraid he is not easy to mess with. I didn't expect Brother Kizaru to still miss me for such a long time. I'm so touched, Corazon said with a face full of emotion. Kizaru almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He is 40 years old this year, he is more than enough to be Corazon's father, yet he is called brother. However, due to Corazon's strength and the few people around him who were staring at him, Kizaru had no choice but to show a far-fetched smile. Makoto, don't be dazed, didn't you see my brother coming? Hurry up and get a table and a tea set. I want to drink a pot with my brother. Corazon turned his head and said. Oh. Masaka Makoto was stunned for a moment, then hurried to Impel Down to take out a set of desks and chairs, and specially boiled a pot of water to make tea. Sitting on a chair, Kizaru almost burst into tears looking at the steaming steam. What's the situation? He obviously came here to rob people, why did he just drink tea? Come on, Brother Kizaru, drink tea. Corazon poured a cup of tea for Kizaru and smiled. Kizaru drank the tea with the corner of his mouth twitching. Come, Kizaru, drink tea. Come, Brother Kizaru, have some tea. Come, Brother Kizaru, have some tea. Come, Brother Kizaru, have some tea. After drinking the 9 pots of water, Kizaru looked at the tea in front of him without tears, and glanced at Corazon who seemed to be smiling but not smiling. He already understood that Corazon was just playing him. This tea. Does he drink it? Brother Corazon, in fact, my younger brother has another purpose for coming this time, but this purpose is really hard for my younger brother to say. I really can't drink anymore, Kizaru covered his stomach and said sadly. Advertisement, since it's hard to say, there's no need to say anything, come, drink tea. Corazon waved his hand generously, and poured a full cup of tea for Kizaru again. Kizaru's face turned black, and he couldn't hold back and sprayed a big mouthful of tea towards the sea. What does it mean to say nothing? Is this your normal reaction? How can I pick up on this? Kizaru snarled a few words in his heart, and then said bitterly, Brother Corazon, although I don't want to say it, I must tell you, that is Jin, who is actually my own brother. Be careful to offend you, I am here this time to ask if you can spare him once. Oh, is it so? Corazon had a playful, BGAJ, look on his face. Why didn't he know that the guys of these two species were relatives? Then he thought about it, patted Kizaru on the shoulder, and said boldly. What do I think is the matter? It's a trivial matter, take him back and teach him well. Kizaru's eyes widened immediately, and he stood up in shock. Jin, who is at the same strength as him, is Corazon just letting go? Of course it's true, Corazon nodded, then changed his tone and sighed. But Kong is really not a human being, he even released people with sick brains. Yeah, I feel the same way. Kizaru nodded in agreement, recalling the 10 years of salary and pension that he was almost deducted. Okay. Corazon clapped his hands, stood up and said loudly, I just like to hear Kizaru brother, you scold him, if you continue to scold him with 100 different sentences, you will take him away. Ha! Kizaru was dumbfounded at the time, and then reacted, the corner of his mouth twitched and he glanced at the monitor bug in his hand. So, that old man Kong is really not human, he deducted my salary and pension, he is simply a beast. A lot of old bachelors are still old, and the rigid hair has fallen out, no wonder no women have taken a fancy to him. That old B********** D is also my leader. If he hadn't been my leader, I would have killed him long ago. Corazon raised his legs playfully, with a smile on his face, and occasionally played like this, it seems good. While Corazon was laughing, listening to the other side of the phone. Naval Headquarters Office of the Marshal, silence. Marine Marshal Kong, Marine Admiral Sengoku, Marine Hero Garp, Marine Staff Admiral Crane, Marine Vice Admiral Akainu. Hearing the swearing from the phone, the corners of their mouths couldn't help twitching. Kong was alright at first, but the more he heard it, the darker his face became. Well, Marshal Sora, Kizaru is also here to save people, so don't be angry, Sengoku persuaded with twitching corners of his mouth. He was really afraid that he would erect a monument to Kizaru when he came back. I know, Kong said with a dark face. That brat Corazon, doesn't he just want to embarrass me? How can such a small thing shake me? Even so, Kong's face was still dark, it was okay at first, but... Why does the more he listens, the more he feels that Kizaru's scolding is sincere? The old miser who doesn't get paid, the old bachelor who can't find a wife, the devil who eats people without spitting out their bones. Seeing Kizaru who was swearing more and more vigorously, the corner of Corazon's mouth couldn't help twitching. He was too embarrassed to tell Kizaru that there were more than 200 words of swearing in the same way. May you go back and live. I silently set up a monument to Kizaru in my heart. Afterwards, Corazon walked towards Jin, the corners of his mouth raised a slight arc, his body bent slightly, and he said in Jin's ear. I know you're awake. Now give you a chance. I heard that there is a woman named Momosagi in Naval Headquarters, take that woman, and I will forget about what happened today. Chapter 94. The Stolen Momosagi, Part 1, Advertisement. Chapter 94. The Stolen Momosagi, Part 1, Kizaru Admiral is back. At the wharf of Naval Headquarters, a marine shouted excitedly. Sengoku Garp and others stood solemnly on the pier. This time, their marine was promoting Kizaru, big victory over Corazon. Although Magellan, Rain Shiryu was defeated, although the prisoners in Impel Down changed hands. Although Impel Down was preempted, but it is also a victory. Victory for Marine, because Kizaru Vice Admiral repelled the demon Corazon. Marine needs a shot in the arm, so Kizaru is the hero. After leaving the pier, Sengoku looked at the seriously injured Jin, heaved a sigh of relief, patted Kizaru on the shoulder, and said in a deep voice. Thanks for your hard work. Garp also patted Kizaru on the shoulder with a face of approval. Thanks for your hard work. Snort, after Akainu saw it, his eyes were full of anger and jealousy, he snorted angrily, and strode away from here. My heart was full of anger, and I clenched my fists. Why is he seriously injured and even lost his dignity, but he is still an ordinary rear admiral? And Kizaru, just caught a Corazon big brother Doflamingo who is helpless, and was promoted to Marine Vice Admiral. It's just some good words. A guy who can only flatter, what qualifications does he have to be a Marine hero? Marine doesn't need this kind of trash. Boom. Akainu's angry punch smashed the surrounding walls to pieces, billowing magma flowed under his feet, and strode towards the pier. I have worked so hard, everything is for Marine, Kizaru said righteously. In fact, Kizaru was ready to die while being pegged by Corazon. Yeah, what's your hard work? Kong looked at Kizaru with a dark face, mixed with joy and resentment, and said, I started scolding me at noon until 8 o'clock in the evening, and I drank 26 pots of tea. If Corazon didn't stop you, you would have scolded me until the next morning. Kizaru. I'm so excited to scold. Time flies, and Naval Headquarters is plunged into darkness. Jin, who was seriously injured in everyone's eyes, slowly opened his eyes, with a hint of hesitation in his eyes, and then this hesitation turned into firmness, and quickly turned into a black shadow, flying towards the center of Naval Headquarters. Boom. With a deafening explosion, a black shadow burning with flames cut through the dark night and headed straight for the sea. Immediately, the lights of Naval Headquarters were all turned on, and Crane Vice Admiral shouted anxiously. Marshal Sora, Sengoku, Garp, it's not good, Jin betrayed Marine, joined Corazon's empire, and even kidnapped Momosagi, hurry up and chase after him. What? Kong, Sengoku, Garp and others were awakened instantly in their sleep. They didn't even have time to put on their clothes. They ran out of the door in a panic, just in time to see the flames disappearing in the sky. Ember. Damn. With a roar, Kong punched angrily and smashed hard on the wall of his house, smashing the wall down with a bang. Advertisement. I said why did that kid put Jin back, it's abominable. After Jin transformed into a pterosaur, He flew to the ocean at an extremely fast speed. Even though Kong Sengoku and the others were furious, they had no way of chasing him. In the ruins, Crane Vice Admiral looked at Momosagi, who was kidnapped by Jin, and angrily hit the ground. How? How dare to snatch her god sister away? Corazon that S**t. Ah, your majesty. Ah, eat grapes. Shokuhou Masaki smiled sweetly, grabbed a grape and fed it to Corazon. Corazon lay comfortably on Shokuhou Masaki's lap, enjoying the delicious food delivered to his mouth, and admiring the beautiful scenery with his eyes. Shokuhou Masaki is indeed a child, with big breasts, and wearing it is also so pleasing to the eye. Not only gloves, but also knee socks, even bras and panties, are white lace cobwebs. In order to justifiably bully Masaka Makoto, he even forgot the tsundere attribute. Your majesty, why don't you teach my elder sister to me for the sake of seeing me give you a massage? Shirai Kuroko said while pinching Corazon's leg, looking at Masaka Makoto with a silly smile on his face. Corazon curled his lips, not to mention that the click is not very good, but Masaka Makoto is handed over to you, and I don't know who is playing whom. At that time, if Shirai Hitsi was shocked by the electric shock, he had no choice but to rescue him. You two bastards, I'm not a toy. Masaka Makoto looked angrily at the two women who wanted to play with her. My lord, don't worry, Hitsi will be very gentle when the time comes. Baijin Hitsi wiped his saliva and said excitedly. Don't look at me like this, I won't do anything too extreme. Shokuhou Masaki stretched out her feet triumphantly and said, the most I can do is let you kneel on the ground and lick it. Ask for flowers, you two want to die, don't you? Masaka Makoto held a coin in his hand, looking at Shokuhou Masaki and Shirai Kuroko with dangerous eyes. Your majesty, the port of the empire is just ahead, but there seems to be some problems. Do you need me to go there and solve them? While Corazon was laughing and admiring the beautiful scenery, the voice of Accelerator suddenly came from the top of Impel Down. Oh, the port? Does anyone dare to come and make trouble there? Corazon stood up lazily, and Rinnegan turned around, crossing the 3,000-meter sea area in an instant, looking towards the port of the empire. Singing boat, Bigimom. Seeing a boat parked at the port, Corazon narrowed his eyes slightly. Even if he took Bigimamu's two daughters into his hands, he would not allow them to cause trouble here. 0. Fang Accelerator, speed up and take a look. After saying something casually, Corazon stood up, the purple feather coat kept swinging in the air, and a violent attraction came from his hands. Accelerator's vector control allows kinetic energy conversion, coupled with Corazon's universal pull, instantly makes Impel Down several hundred meters high rush over. My old lady is Bigimom, the mother-in-law of your king. How dare you let me line up here? Bigimamu had a fire on his head, a thundercloud on his feet, a long knife in his hand, and looked at Deidara and Chie in front of him with murderous intent. This is the king's order, don't make trouble here, otherwise, I will let you feel my instant art, Deidara said enthusiastically, holding the detonating clay in his hand. During this period of time, he had contact with the demons at the gate of Hades, and reached a consensus with the jackal in an instant, and the explosion is the most beautiful. The two blast maniacs were working together, and Deidara couldn't help but want to try out the power of her new art. Who are you as an old lady? Bigimom roared, and Napoleon with two swords slashed down heavily. Scorpion's eyes turned cold, his fingers danced, and countless iron sand covered the sky. No. Brother Scorpion, run, Zunwang is going crazy. Deidara stared at the sky with shocked eyes, swallowed in horror, roared, quickly grabbed the scorpion, and disappeared in place in an instant. At the next moment, there was a huge seastone building with an island size that covered the sun's rays, causing the eyes of countless people below to frighten, and it fell down with a bang like the sky. Chapter 95 almost crushed Bigimamu to death, second update. Advertisement Chapter 95 almost crushed Bigimamu to death, second update. Boom. The violent waves broke up, the ground shattered, and the violent waves rushed to a height of 100 meters, showing overwhelming water surges, slapping towards the edge of the Imperial Pier. On the shore, the fishermen and merchants on the turbines of the passing merchant ships shouted in horror and ran on board as if fleeing for their lives. Hiss. Deidara took a breath and said in shock, Brother Scorpion, fortunately we ran fast, otherwise we would be crushed into meatloaf. Such a huge building is all made of iron, which may be heavier than an island. If it hits a human body, Deidara feels that he may not even have bones left. Ah, I'm afraid my body will be smashed to pieces, Chie said with a heavy sigh of relief. If it hit 453 on his body, let alone bone scum, I'm afraid the puppet would be smashed into wood chips. However, those guys should be dead too, such a heavy building. Deidara gloated and looked at the Impel Down, making those guys arrogant and unreasonable. Zunwang is not as easy to talk to as they are. No, still alive. Scorpion shook his head slightly, narrowed his eyes and looked at a mirror on the freighter. That is. Deidara turned his gaze away, and his face suddenly became serious. The telescope in his pupils rotated quickly, and he saw clearly the scene in the mirror. I actually hid in the mirror. I've only heard about this ability, but I haven't seen it, Deidara said solemnly, and dozens of white lovebirds quickly appeared in his hand. After all, in the world of ninjas, there are all kinds of strange abilities. For example, it is not too surprising that Hiken of the Minaduki family can hide his body in ice and in a mirror. Corazon, is this how you treat me? I gave you both of my daughters. Bigum came out from the mirror and screamed angrily. The voice was so piercing that people couldn't help but cover their ears. What are you talking about? The corners of Corazon's mouth curled up, and he sat on the top of the impel down without any hesitation, looking down at Bigumam. Your daughter is a gift you gave me as a loyalty, and it is also my trophy. Don't think that you can be presumptuous in front of me. You. Bigum's eyes became angry, and at this moment, Orochimaru rushed over from the distant academy city, laughed hoarsely, made some kind of imprint in his hand, and suddenly made Bigum's pupils constrict. Her sharp voice was actually wiped out in an instant. B**********D. Who are you? Report your name. Bigumamu looked at Orochimaru with his eyes and growled sharply. Mom, it seems that something is wrong. Katakuri interrupted Bigumam's words, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, his eyes were full of shock, he pointed at the pitch-black building stiffly and said dryly. If he guessed right. That thing. It is said that there is no entry but no exit, impel down. What's wrong? The angry Bigumamu frowned, and wanted to scold him, but when he looked up, he was stunned for a moment. The eyeballs almost popped out. The whole body is black, up to hundreds of meters, seamless and non-porous, just like a Shinigami villa. This is impel down. Advertisement. Bigumam roared in disbelief. Big pirates like them are naturally not too unfamiliar with the impel down where marine detains prisoners. But, doesn't impel down mean that it is near the naval headquarters, going straight to the ground, the dangerous sea beast domain? How did it appear in the empire? Corazon opened his hands, and said proudly, of course, this king thinks this building is good, so I took it back as an ornamental object. Gulu. Bigumamu swallowed dryly. To put it lightly, impel down is closely connected to the ground, and the outer wall itself is made of sea stone, which is comparable to the combined weight of 10 islands. Not to mention moving it, even if you want to shake it, it may be impossible. Corazon. Now Big Mom was completely honest, and stood aside honestly with the Big Mom pirates, for fear of offending Corazon. Corazon looked at the honest Bigumamu, with a hint of amusement in his eyes, and smiled at Accelerator on the side. Fang Accelerator, don't you often say you want to fight Bigumamu? It just so happens that you have this opportunity, go and practice? Accelerator nodded respectfully, and then looked at Bigumamu coldly. He knew what the king meant, and it was nothing more than teaching this woman a lesson. At that moment, there was a loud noise under his feet, and Accelerator's figure instantly shot over. Corazon, my wife has already taken it, what do you want to do? Bigumamu looked at Accelerator, who was rushing towards him with the strong wind, and cursed angrily. He didn't expect Corazon to be so cruel, and he would do such a cruel thing to her even though he wanted her 2 daughters. But the situation was critical, and Bigumamu didn't have time to continue cursing, so he hit Accelerator. Boom. Bigumamu's face changed drastically, and she quickly took 2 steps back, looking at her palm in pain. Her handbone was definitely broken just now. However, Accelerator laughed loudly, and controlled the vector of the strong wind under his feet. Accompanied by the tornado, he quickly rushed in front of Bigumamu, and after he swung his fist, Gumamu's stomach was sunken, and he spit out a mouthful of blood. Crashed into the impel down, crashing down more than a dozen cells one after another. Mother! Katakuri yelled in shock, his heart racing to an extreme. My mother is a person who is called a steel balloon. Even Kaido of the Beasts may not be able to match her body's toughness. She couldn't even make a single move in front of that white-haired boy. Just when everyone in the Big Mom Pirates was terrified. Corazon jumped down from impel down, jumped to the center of the Big Mom Pirate group, and provoked a girl's chin in full view. Very cute guy. Corazon looked at the beauty in front of him who also had a pair of long 3.2 legs, and said with a smile. It's decided, I want to keep you in my palace. Huh. Charlotte Povil was taken aback for a moment, then covered her mouth in shock. Her own sister, Garrett, is not enough. Why should she be taken away? At this moment, there was an angry scream from Bigumamu from the advancing Soul Spell. In an instant, the sky was enveloped by a burst of purple aura, as if facing Shinigami directly. A trace of fear appeared in the hearts of many commoner businessmen. It's the Mother's Kingdom of Death. As long as there is even a trace of fear in the person being shrouded, their soul will be taken away. That white-haired kid is doomed. Katakuri breathed a sigh of relief. His eyes quickly looked around, looking for the best escape route. That white-haired kid, whose bones are not fully developed, is obviously still under 20 years old. If so, how could he not be afraid of his mother? Chapter 96. Bigumamu like a dead dog, 3rd, advertisement. Chapter 96. Bigumamu like a dead dog, 3rd update. Hiss. I won't be beaten to death. Corazon touched his chin, turned his head to look at Orochimaru and said, Orochimaru, go and have a look, don't die. According to what Corazon knew about Accelerator, he would never be relentless in killing a Bigumamu. Ho ho ho, I understand your majesty. Orochimaru gave a hoarse laugh, and quickly ran into the impel down. Bang bang bang. Papa papa. Boom boom boom. In the eternal hell at the bottom of impel down, the flames were flickering, the thunder was loud, and from the gap torn by Accelerator, the dazzling light made it impossible to look directly at it. It's all Mother's ability, this battle will definitely win. Katakuri breathed a sigh of relief, and with his eyes signaled the members of the Big Mom Pirates to approach the mirror quickly, otherwise Corazon would never let them go once he found out that his men were killed. Except for the woman 16 in Corazon's arms, everyone in the Big Mom Pirate group tiptoed to the mirror, and Corazon showed a playful look on his face, and he didn't stop him. The deafening sound in impel down lasted for 5 minutes. When the sound stopped, everyone involuntarily suppressed a mouthful of saliva and stared at the entrance of impel down. Who won? When a figure gradually emerged from the impel-down gap, Katakuri and the others showed surprise in their eyes, because that huge shadow must be the mother, and only the mother has such a tall body. Boom! Your Majesty, I have rescued Bigimamu. Orochimaru's hoarse laughter came from the shadows, instantly causing Katakuri and the others to widen their eyes. The appearance of the shadow gradually emerged, causing the people present to look terrified and scream involuntarily. It turned out to be an 8-headed snake with blood dripping from its mouth, a ferocious appearance, and a 100-meter-high Yamata no Orochi. Gulu, Orochimaru raised his neck, swallowed a few pieces of meat in his mouth, transformed into a human form and walked out. Behind Orochimaru, Accelerator with an indifferent face came out grabbing the unconscious Shinigami. Some members of the Big Mom pirates fainted from fright on the spot. Katakuri's eyes widened, and he looked at Big Mom who was dragged to the ground and bleeding all over in disbelief. His mother, who has the fighting power to fight against Sengoku Garp, her body is so hard that she will be dragged out like a dead dog, almost making Katakuri scream out. Mom was beaten. Advertisement Charlotte Dafu yelled in disbelief. In an instant, there was an uproar on the scene. Whether it was enlisted in the army, whether it was a businessman who had just arrived at the port, or a pirate who had just come to trade, seeing the scene in front of him, his eyeballs almost closed. Strange, monster. A pirate shouted in disbelief. Although they have long heard about the strength of the demon Corazon and the news that Corazon defeated Marine, that situation is completely different from the current one. The former is that Corazon led his men to repel Marine, which only shows the strength of Corazon. But, right now, an unknown white-haired demon. It's hard for anyone to imagine that a random member of Hexia's organization defeated the notorious Bigimamu in just 5 minutes. Corazon laughed and smashed the glass beside Katakuri with a wave of his finger. He was not very surprised by this result. One of Bigunum's strongest abilities is the Death Kingdom of the Soul spell. As long as someone is afraid of her, then no matter who is strong, his soul will be drawn out without a doubt, but Accelerator is the one who thinks he is the first and never knows what it means to be afraid. There is also Orochimaru. It seems that in the Hokage world, no one can make him afraid, and Bigimamu is considered unlucky to meet these two guys. Your Majesty, this guy insulted you and impelled down. I accidentally hit him hard. Please punish. Accelerator glanced at the Big Mom pirates indifferently and then said respectfully. This made the pirates present take a deep breath. The strong man who defeated Bigimamu with his own strength would actually be so respectful to Corazon. What kind of charisma does Corazon have? Well, I won't blame you. If I blame you, I should blame Orochimaru. Corazon looked at Orochimaru playfully. He asked Orochimaru to save Bigimamu so that he would not be beaten to death by Accelerator, but it seems that Orochimaru was the culprit. Several blood holes appeared on his body, and Corazon felt chills when he saw it. Seeing the latter, he shivered and hurriedly half-kneeled on the ground respectfully. Let's figure it out. Corazon waved his hand, motioning for Orochimaru to stand up. Ha ha ha, it seems that Bigimamu's strength is not as good as mine, so he is a bit abrupt. Don't be afraid. Orochimaru, take them down to rest, Corazon said with a smile. The members of the Big Mom pirates shivered and looked at Orochimaru in horror. For some reason, they had the illusion of facing a natural enemy in front of Orochimaru. By the way, 073, since you are here, you will stay for a while longer. Just in time, I asked Heavenly Dao Pain to move your island here. The whole family needs to be tidy. Corazon seemed to think of something, and said with a smile. Katakuri trembled all over, looking at Corazon in fear. He has known for a long time that Corazon can move the island here, but they came here this time just to taste the delicacies of the Empire, and they didn't expect a war. How could such a thing happen? Even the mother was defeated. Corazon didn't respond to the thoughts in Katakuri's eyes at all, turned his head to look at Tian Dao Pain, who nodded respectfully, and flew into the sky like a meteorite, heading straight for the sea area of the Bigum pirates. Looking at this aspect, to be honest, Corazon doesn't really want to take a shot against Bigumam or Kaido of the Beasts. After all, they don't have much to do at this period. Even if you lose, you won't get any money. If you want to increase the population quickly, Corazon thinks of this. The corner of the mouth curled up to look into the sky. At this moment, Ju's figure emerged from the ground, half kneeling on the ground and said respectfully. King Naz and Killer Bee caught a flame pterosaur and a female marine when they were holding a concert outside the Empire's waters. They said they came to see you. Do you want to see them? Chapter 97. Let Me Stay Innocence, 4th, advertisement. Chapter 97 Let Me Stay Innocence, 4th, flame pterosaur. It looks like that guy is here, and he's coming up a little faster than I thought. Originally, although Corazon knew that he would come over, he wanted to come, at least a few days later, but he did not expect to catch Momoshagi the next morning. Bring him here, Corazon said with a smile on his lips. Although Momoshagi is not one of the 3 beauties in the pirate world, her wonderful figure is one of the most beautiful beauties in this world. Even Smoothie, who has long legs of more than 2 meters, may not be able to match her. Superior. Let go of me, let me go, Jin, you traitor. What good did you do to get you to catch me even if you betrayed Marine? A beautiful woman's angry voice sounded, and the others who heard it frowned, but Corazon smiled. The voice was right, it was Momoshagi. I have seen His Majesty Corazon, my subordinate, according to your instructions, brought Momoshagi here. Seeing Corazon for the first time, Jin took a deep breath, half-kneeled on the ground, and said to show his loyalty. Hiss, isn't this the impel-down director Jin that Kaido of the Beasts mentioned to me? Bigumam's pupils shrank, and he murmured in disbelief. I never thought the Jin would follow Corazon on his own initiative. That guy, he will go crazy. She has been hearing from Kaido of the beasts that there are 3 major disasters to be formed, drought and epidemic. Now that the good fire disasters she just found have been abducted, maybe Kaido of the beasts will run away immediately. B************************************* D. Devil, pervert. You men fight as long as you fight, what's the point of catching me? Momoshage writhed angrily, looked at Corazon and shouted. Well, you Marine captured my father and big brother, and it seems normal for me to snatch you here, Corazon laughed. Momoshage was speechless for a moment. Marine captured Corazon's family, of course she knew better than that, she was happy for a long time, but she didn't expect that the retribution would come so fast, and the retribution came to tag EJ. Thinking of Corazon's rumors, Momoshage's eyes became a little frightened, he stopped struggling, bit his lower lip, plopped on the ground and begged. Your Majesty Corazon, those things were all done by Marshal Kong, and have nothing to do with me, and I'm not pretty, can you let me go? I heard that Corazon has a good policy towards captives, and now Momoshage doesn't want to escape, anyway, he can't escape. She only wished that the energy became available before Aokiji was treated like that. No, it's good to keep your innocence. Corazon turned a deaf ear, smiled and looked at the waist-length black hair in front of him, with a beauty mole at the corner of his mouth, Momoshage in pink clothes. Boiled duck can make her fly. Don't worry, a gentleman like me won't be rough on women. From now on, you can walk around in my palace. Corazon raised Momoshage's chin so that she could look directly at him. No, Momoshage was frightened and cried on the spot, she didn't want this kind of treatment, just give her a cell and a bowl of porridge. Suddenly, Momoshage's eyes lit up, and saw Aokiji, who was determined to be dead by Marine, and Zephyr, who was captured in the crowd, desperately shouted for help. Aokiji Vice Admiral, Teacher Zephyr, save me quickly, this S**T is going to insult me. Cough cough. A look of embarrassment appeared in Aokiji's eyes, he coughed a few times, turned his head stiffly, and pretended not to hear. Not long ago he had just been let off by Corazon, at this moment he didn't dare touch his brow again. Besides, even if he spoke, Corazon couldn't possibly listen. Advertisement if force is used. Aokiji feels like he will be beaten so much that even his mother doesn't know. Slip away. Zephyr. Zephyr took a deep breath, showing a painful expression, stepped forward and patted Momoshage on the shoulder. Teacher has no choice, just accept it, and look for another chance in the future. As far as I know, Corazon treats his women very well, Zephyr said bitterly. Corazon was so confident that he didn't even bring him a seastone chain, and this time, with the addition of Accelerator Misaka Makoto and other strong players, even if Zephyr's strength increased a little, he could only feel deeply powerless. The most important thing is that if he helps Momoshage now, not only will he not rescue Momoshage, but he will implicate himself, and maybe tens of thousands of Marine students will also be implicated. For this reason, GFA could only reluctantly watch this scene. No, Momoshage cried out tearfully, she didn't want to be a wife to this demon who has several women. Afterwards, Momoshage was grabbed by the smiling Shokuhou Misaki, and walked involuntarily towards the newly built Golden Palace, crying as she walked, not knowing what was waiting for her next. Licking his lips slightly, Corazon turned his head with a smile, looked at Orochimaru and said, Orochimaru, I will leave Bigimamu and Jin to you, and let them stay in the Empire honestly, understand? Orochimaru smiled hoarsely, agreed respectfully, and looked at Shinigami and Jin with fanaticism. The hard body, the ability to empty the soul, and the ability to change, he needs to study it carefully. Brother Katakuri, what should we do? Are we going to run away? Charlotte Daifuku asked nervously when she saw the situation on the field, her legs became weak with fright. He felt that it was a wrong decision for them to come to the Empire this time. Corazon didn't care about the status of their marriage at all, not to mention that his mother was seriously injured and a younger sister was snatched away. Corazon's methods are too ruthless, and his heart is cold, which makes people feel cold in the bottom of their hearts. Katakuri shook his head bitterly, run. Can he escape? Leaving aside Corazon, Accelerator and Orochimaru would not be able to make it through, let alone Deidara, Hidan, Scorpion, Natsu, Killer Bee and others all around him. Now, let alone him, I am afraid that even if Whitebeard comes, he will not be able to escape. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Katakuri slowly bent his knees, half-kneeled on the ground and said respectfully. Big Mom Pirates, willing to join the Empire, please agree with your majesty. Brother Katakuri, of Chose, Charlotte Daifuku, Charlotte Owen, Charlotte Cracker and others stared wide-eyed, looking at Kotaku in shock. They actually want to take the initiative to join the Empire, what about their pirate group? And joining the Empire, doesn't it mean submitting? How could it be? Shut up. Katakuri turned his head and scolded, clenched his palms tightly. If he had a choice of 1 in 10,000, he wouldn't make this decision. But now, my mother was caught, and the only mirror to escape was shattered. From any point of view, it was a situation of 10 deaths and no life. In order to ensure the safety of his family, Katakuri could only do this. Although the other members of the Big Mom Pirates were puzzled, they also half-knelt on the ground. When the captured Morgan saw this scene, his mouth widened in shock, and then he kept taking pictures with the camera excitedly. Big news, big news, big news that shocked the world, hey. Chapter 98 Above the Sky is the King's Territory, advertisement. Chapter 98 Above the Sky is the King's Territory. Naval Headquarters Office of the Marshal, hey, are you kidding? Kong looked at the information in the newspaper, his hands trembling. How could this kind of thing happen? Is Bigimamu an idiot? He's so stupid to go to someone else's lair. Sengoku slammed his fist on the table and cursed. What kind of people are pirates? They are all unforgivable and unforgivable sinners. Corazon, in particular, is simply a hopeless evil party, and its strength is so terrifying that it can crush naval headquarters. Bigimamu would think that Corazon could be tied with 2 women. Sengoku would like to dig Bigimamu's head open to see what kind of paste is inside. The 2 big villains have merged into one. Although Bigimamu is not a very strong force, this is a start, and it's not enough. Garp looked at the information in the newspaper, frowned, and said worriedly. As a big pirate, Bigimamu took refuge in Corazon, who was the king. If the pirates followed suit, Garp didn't even dare to think about the consequences. Those 750 don't matter. Crane Vice Admiral gritted his teeth and looked at the newspaper. Naval Headquarters Colonel Momosagi, the day she became the Corazon Princess of the Empire, T. That brat, how dare you insult my sister like that? Crane Vice Admiral almost gritted his teeth. It's enough to confirm Momosagi's safety, not to mention that Aokiji was also found in this photo, which means that they are not in danger in a short time, Sengoku said in a deep voice. That brat is a bit human. Kong heaved a sigh of relief, and was about to put the newspaper down, but suddenly saw another headline, and his eyes froze. Open black lens bracket. The world in the sky is the king's territory, close black lens bracket. What's this? Kong opened the newspaper in doubt, and looked at the back of the newspaper. The picture was a golden palace towering into the sky. Above the palace, a man with blonde hair and a purple cloak stood there, as if looking down on everything from above. Is Corazon crazy to say that there are islands above the sky of 10,000 meters? Kizaru muttered suspiciously while sitting on the sofa eating a banana. To say that, BGAB, wants to conquer the sky above 10,000 meters is a bit too much of a joke, right? No, there are indeed islands above the height of 10,000 meters. No, there are indeed islands above the height of 10,000 meters. The voices of Kong and Garp sounded at the same time, and the two not only looked at each other. Sengoku's movements froze, and he looked at the two in surprise. I heard that guy from Roger said that he once went to Sky Island. It should be true, Garp said in a deep voice. That's right, Marine's information also says that there are islands in the sky that can control the weather, but the whereabouts are weird. The world government has been investigating for many years, but there is nothing, Kong nodded and said. Hiss. Sengoku took a deep breath, ran out of the window in shock and looked at the sky. There is actually an island in the empty sky. Advertisement, hey, Marshal Kong, this time, you won't let me go to the sky above 10,000 meters, will you? Kizaru asked with a twitching corner of his mouth. After all, Naval Headquarters, he is the only one who takes to the sky. No need. Kong squinted his eyes and said, the sky is not under our Marine's control. However, since Corazon wants to conquer the sky, the Empire must be empty. Maybe there is only an empty shell left. How many troops there are? Please spare me, Kizaru screamed, covering his face, as if his soul was about to be sucked out. No way. Who makes you the fastest? Kong patted Kizaru's shoulder with his big hand, and said in a deep voice, with great power comes great responsibility. I've amputated this leg and now I'm still in a hurry? Kizaru patted his legs and said without tears, it was the first time he hated his ability so much. If he had known, last time he was deliberately captured by Corazon, and he could still have a companion with Aokiji. Okay, I understand, remember to increase my salary by 10 times. Seeing Kong's righteous look, Kizaru said without tears. Wait, Marshal Kong. Just when Kizaru was about to agree to come down, Akainu's deep voice came from outside the door. I saw Akainu strode over, slapped a piece of paper on the marshal's desk and said, Marshal Kong, this is an order from the world government. Let you station all the elites of Naval Headquarters in Marijoy, and the World Summit will be held ahead of schedule. What? Kong froze for a moment, picked up the paper with a frown, read it carefully, and then slapped the table furiously. Which B******* D came up with the idea to have Corazon participate in the World Summit? Is his head in the shit? How could Corazon agree to split the country, let alone hand over those strong people? Akainu sneered, and said with murderous intent in his eyes, if Corazon disagrees, the world government and Marine will join forces and definitely kill him there. In the final analysis, this kind of sea residue should not be alive. Akainu. Boom. The top of Kong's head was on fire, and he punched Akainu in the face, sending him flying, crashing into several walls and barely stopping. Get out of here, you actually went to the world government naval headquarters on your own. I can't keep a big Buddha like you, Kong cursed. HMPH, a group of cowardly fellows, Akainu, don't bother to join forces with you. Akainu covered his face, growled angrily, and strode outside. As soon as Akainu left, Kong seemed to have lost all his strength and sat heavily on the chair, rubbing his temples feebly. Akainu wants to kill Corazon, which he can understand. But now, the strength between the two is obviously not on the same level. Even if the world government is added, the outcome is only 50-50, and they may be even weaker. It's too risky to entrust the future direction of the world to a single battle. At the same time, Corazon looked excitedly at the sky on a golden palace about several hundred meters high. There will be rewards for conquering the sky, summoned by S-level forces, not bad. Gentlemen, the Empire will be handed over to you, Orochimaru, Pain, Accelerator, Natsu, let's go this time, Corazon said excitedly. Yes. Hundreds of people around respectfully half knelt on the ground and shouted in unison. Chapter 99 Superpower, Chakra, The Explosion of Magic, 6th More. Advertisement Chapter 99. Superpower, Chakra, and the Explosion of Magic open black lens bracket 6th close black lens bracket. Seeing that Corazon is about to leave, whether it is Zephyr who is in charge of teaching students, Aokiji who is sleeping late, or prisoners such as Golden Lion who is farming, or the BIGMOM pirates. At this moment, everyone became radiant and energetic, looking at Corazon expectantly. My people, don't look at me with such worried eyes. Even if I go to conquer the sky, I will protect your safety. Corazon's combat power is at the top of the Golden Palace, and his voice is as majestic as Kamui. Big pervert, big devil, who needs your protection, Sister Smoothie, it hurts. Momosagi watched tearfully as Smoothie applied her medicine, wiped away her tearful eyes, and cursed Corazon. Masaka Makoto, Conan, Pluton Mardo, Killer Bee, Ghost Lamp Full Moon, show me your abilities to the people of this king, and knock down those pirate ships in the distance. Corazon hooked the corner of his mouth, pointing to several pirate ships in the distance, he said. The pupils of Zephyr, Golden Lion, Bigimamu and others shrank, and they quickly looked in the direction of Corazon's finger, and their eyes suddenly became serious. The target location is 3,000 meters away from the coastline. 6 kilometers to be exact. The pirate ship of Zack the Killer, the captain is the Corazon who ate the Corazon fruit, which is also considered in New World. This time I came here to seek refuge with Corazon, but I was actually treated as a target. Zephyr doesn't think that Corazon hates this kind of evil pirates, maybe there is a part of the reason, but it's more to deter them. That white-haired brat is not here, and Corazon is leaving. Do you want to scare my old lady with these guys alone? Bigimom's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Golden Lion clenched his palms excitedly and rattled the chain. Corazon tied devil fruit chains on his hands and feet. Although he didn't limit his freedom, he wanted to run, and it was difficult to reach the sky, but this is his chance. As long as Marine is not a bunch of idiots, he will definitely not miss this opportunity. When he takes advantage of the chaos, he might escape. When the pirates were harboring ulterior motives, violent power was released from Conan and the other 5 people, and the powerful deterrent force even caused the ground to collapse. Railgun. Masaka Makoto shot out the game coins in his hand in an instant, and the violent thunder and lightning wrapped around it, and the speed comparable to lightning instantly cut through, leaving a gap on the surface of the sea. God's paper technique, 600 billion detonating talismans. Conan waved his palm, and the endless detonating talismans set off a heavy rainstorm, completely covering the sea surface. Although only a part of it exploded, the monstrous tsunami caused by the explosion was thousands of meters long. The thorns of the underworld. Pluton Mardo was entangled in spell power, 2 thick vines spread over in an instant, and the sharp thorns easily crushed the 2 warships. Dude, are you ready? Tailed beast cannon. Killer Bee turned into a tailed beast form, opened its mouth wide, and the berserk chakra gathered in the mouth, forming a purple regular sphere, which flew out suddenly, forming a huge explosion zone thousands of meters above the sea. Place liberation. The ghost lamp full moon is the weakest among them, but with its monstrous current and energy, it can easily crush a pirate ship. Hiss. Zephyr, Golden Lion and the others gasped. Their mouths were so wide that they could put a palm in. Their eyes were full of shock. 3,000 meters away, instantly destroying the enemy. What kind of method is this? Horrible. Advertisement. Bigimom swallowed dryly, glanced at Smoothie in the palace room again, and silently gave up the idea of running away. She has 3 daughters who serve as concubines here. Anyway, her status is not too bad. If she escapes with these monsters, she may die. Seeing the waves rising in the distance, both Zephyr and Golden Lion silently swallowed their plan of voluntary escape. If nothing happens, the chances of them escaping, 0. His Majesty the King is too powerful. If it weren't for His Majesty the King, we would still be in fear all day long. May Your Majesty the King. Countless people raised their hands and cheered. In Corazon's empire, they not only got protection, but also lived a stable life. Moreover, without worrying about the threat of pirates, these people were integrated into the empire almost instantly, and now they even support Corazon. Your Majesty the King is really powerful. As expected, a country cannot be protected without strong strength. The former king of the Darius Rosa Kingdom, and now the king's capital guard, King Liku, said with emotion on his face. Seeking flowers 0. It would be even better if the lewdness was removed, Cyrus said with a dark face. He and his wife had just given birth to a baby, and Corazon recognized him as one of the future princesses. Gentlemen, let's go. Seeing the cheers below, Corazon grabbed Morgan's and rushed into the sky laughing amidst the latter's screams. What the hell is that kid going to do, to conquer the sky? On the Whitebeard pirate's ship, Whitebeard saw the phone bug in front of him. Suddenly there was a picture, it was in the endless sky, and he frowned and asked doubtfully. He actually chose to let the whole world see his traces. Could it be that there are really islands in the sky? 0 on the ship of the Roger pirates. Roger looked at the endless sky and laughed. I didn't expect that guy Corazon, who is also a dreamer, would choose to conquer the sky. You idiot, the bigger his power, the more difficult our road will be, don't you know that? Rayleigh slapped Roger's head hard and cursed. Well, Corazon has conquered so many kingdoms, and I have never heard of his tyranny, so don't worry. Roger waved his hand indifferently and smiled. It's over, the captain has no will to fight at all. Buggy's nose and tears were streaming down. The historical text of the last road sign is in the hands of Kaido of the Beasts, and Corazon's next target may be Kaido of the Beasts. No, I don't want to fight that monster. Naval Headquarters. Kong looked at the clouds in the picture and roared with an ugly face. Perusalino, didn't I ask you to send an invitation to Corazon for the World Summit? Now that everyone is running away, why don't you go to the sky to catch up? Kizaru curled his lips and asked him to send an invitation to Corazon. Is this sending a partner to Aokiji? I see. I have already informed Momosagi. When Corazon comes back, he will know the news. While speaking, Kizaru stared at the screen intently. Corazon, the strongest empire king in the sea, chose to conquer the sky first. He didn't want to let go of such a rare thing in a lifetime. No, a rare thing in several lifetimes. Chapter 100 Burning Up an Island in the Air, 7th Update. Advertisement Chapter 100 Burning Up an Island in the Air, 7th Update. Your Majesty, there's a strange kinetic energy in front of it. The speed is not very fast, but the volume is very large, 1/10 the size of the capital of the empire. Accelerator sat on the bow of the golden boat, and suddenly spoke. Tiandao Pain Rinnegan moved, and quickly pinched a few seals on his hand. Rain Tiger Freedom Art. Suddenly, light rain began to fall profusely in the sky. Slightly felt it, Tiandao Pain respectfully said to the top of the golden boat. Your Majesty, that is a movable island. The people on the island have 2 wings, but the people on the island don't look very friendly. Corazon stood up, looking coldly at the island. With the abilities of many powerful people, he has already sensed that island, but he has been observing the situation on it. Killing constantly, believing in 523, death, killing everything you see, it's really a barbaric place. Keep this island, and destroy everything on it. Natsu, you go. Corazon said coldly. Judging from the information he has surrounded this island, this Sky Island is the murderer in Sky Island. All the Sky Islands he encountered were plundered and then killed. There really are islands in the sky. That Corazon is really incredible. Looking at the island displayed on the screen, it was indeed floating in midair, and the speed was extremely fast. Whitebeard couldn't help but gasp and said. As one of the strongest forces in the sea, he actually set his sights on the sky, and indeed he found it. This is something he never thought about. Father, I'm afraid, Corazon is already invincible, if there is a battle with us. Marco the Phoenix said in a subdued voice. Corazon's purpose is obvious. He wants to be the king of sea, sky and land. Now the sky is already under the control of Corazon. Even if the sea can't get along, he is still the king of the sky. And all of this will inevitably lead to a battle with their Whitebeard pirate group, which can't help but make Phoenix Marco Diamond Jazzy and other captains worry. Dad is getting old, although it is not obvious, but his strength has obviously deteriorated, and they are not capable of taking over from Dad to lead the Whitebeard pirates. If there is a battle, they are really worried about what will happen to Dad. Wahahaha, silly sons, are you worried about Lousy? Whitebeard laughed loudly and shouted. Lousy is Whitebeard, even if it is the Empire, you don't have to be afraid. Phoenix Marco and others had no choice but to agree, but the worries in their hearts did not decrease at all. Even in the face of Marine, they were not so worried, but Corazon's strength can defeat Sengoku and Garp, and Accelerator under him instantly killed Bigimamu. Whitebeard laughed twice, but slightly tightened the hand holding the information sent by Naval Headquarters. Your Majesty, one move is enough for this kind of island. Naz laughed excitedly. The flame-colored demon fire was burning all over his body, strange fiery red lines spread on his body, and 2 demon flame wings emerged behind his back. His hands were open, his chest was bulging high, and the hot breath blows around the body. Devil Profound Truth Shiranui type Red Lotus Phoenix Sword. The berserk flames were like a fire dragon, spinning crazily around Naz's body, and the scorching breath rushed straight to the height of tens of thousands of meters. The low-pressure air didn't seem to affect the burning of the flames at all. As the flame rushed higher and higher, it finally formed a huge flaming flame sword with a length of nearly 100 meters, and Naz was in it, like a god in the fire. Drink. Advertisement. The scorching flame sword pierced through the air, leaving behind a scorching aura, and under the shocking eyes of Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Kong and others, it blasted on the Sky Island in an instant. Boom. Just like the scene of the sun falling, hot flames swept across the entire Sky Island in an instant. Those Sky Island residents who were excitedly holding spears and knives suddenly screamed, and piles of human bones burned up in an instant. The raging flames never stop, burning all the buildings and everything on Sky Island to ashes. Although they are on the screen, everyone outside the screen feels as warm as being in it. Almost split that island in two. Pluton Rayleigh swallowed dryly and rubbed his eyes in disbelief, thinking that everything he saw was a dream. Although it is not difficult to destroy an island, Pluton Rayleigh, Bullet and others think that it is impossible to destroy everything on the island while keeping the island intact. The Demon of Flame, Atria's Naz Dragneel, such a young boy actually has the fighting power to defeat Akainu head-on. Kong looked at the boy with the flower-colored hair of Sakura in the picture. His eyes were full of solemnity. I have never heard of a flame that can burn magma. Akainu on the side clenched his palms involuntarily after seeing Natsu. His eyes were burning with the flames of Natsu. It was a humiliation he would never forget in his life, the second humiliation. What kind of murder they're creating? A group of unforgivable villains. Sengoku clenched his palms angrily for being so reckless. No, there should be a reason for Corazon to do this, not just for killing. Kong shook his head slowly and said. Sengoku Garp looked at Kong in surprise. Marshal Kong would take the initiative to speak for an evil party, which is really rare. Why are you looking at me like that? Kong's face darkened, and said, this is not what the old man said out of thin air. If that kid is really a guy who commits all kinds of evil, do you think Zephyr and Aokiji will still be alive today? Hearing this, Garp and Sengoku nodded in agreement. If Corazon is really a person who likes to kill, then choosing a way, not to mention the happy life of a family of 3, I am afraid that he will be beheaded and demonstrated directly. Even if he is a bit lustful, Kong has to admit that Corazon is a good 2.0 king. HMPH, don't forget that you are Marines. Pirates are a group of guys who do all kinds of evil. There are no good people. A powerful pirate group like this should be completely destroyed. Akainu looked at the eyes of Kong, Sengoku and the others, a trace of coldness flashed across them, he snorted coldly and said in a cold voice. Kong turned his head, looked at Akainu and sighed, he knew what Akainu thought, but it was too extreme. If you are facing pirates, although this kind of thinking is a bit extreme, it is also acceptable. However, Corazon is beyond the scope of pirates, he is the king who built an empire. With a continent composed of hundreds of islands, many subordinates with unpredictable strength, the king of the empire who can compete with the world government. Kong now doesn't know whether he is right or wrong in agreeing to the world government's proposal. Chapter 101 Almost Baked Fujitora, First Update, Advertisement. Chapter 101 Almost Baked Fujitora, First Update, Your Majesty, these islands are fused together. Look, it looks like a cotton candy, Natsu said, pointing at a huge sky island in front of him. Ho ho ho, it seems that there is some kind of connection between these islands. Orochimaru smiled hoarsely, and licked his lips excitedly. There are also problems with the area and quality of the sky islands, but they can be perfectly integrated. The mystery is really exciting. 7 days have allowed them to have such a large area in the sky, it seems that we shouldn't give him time. Marijoy, there are 5 old men who are wearing black suits, look old, but can see the toughness of the body, but these 5 old men look at the picture in front of them, their faces are gloomy, and it is extremely difficult to see. Corazon should have been notified last time to let him participate in the World Summit. If he disagrees, he should be killed at that time. A bald-headed 5 elders said fiercely. Having said that, but Corazon has grown to this stage now, even we are a bit difficult to deal with, 5 elders, who has a 16-meter goatee, said with an ugly face. It's okay, I have already informed those people, and they should all come over. Holding the first-generation ghost in his hand, the 5 elders with cold eyes said in a deep voice. At that time, let Corazon, like rocks, be completely forgotten by the sea. Well, there is something wrong, the surroundings are too scattered. Corazon narrowed his eyes slightly, and there was a hint of playfulness in his eyes. He had felt something was wrong since 3 days ago. Sky Island has its location, and there will be connections between several Sky Islands, but since 3 days ago, those connected islands have all disappeared. Even the Sky Island that Corazon knew, where Luffy and others went up, somehow disappeared without a trace. But now, Corazon stands in front of the continent formed by hundreds of Sky Islands, always feeling that the continent is moving. What's the matter, Your Majesty, is there something wrong? Orochimaru asked suspiciously. There is indeed a problem. Corazon nodded with a smile. Orochimaru doesn't know what's going on in the sky, how can he not know? Masters, fly up. With an order, without asking any reason, Tendo Pain grabbed Orochimaru's shoulder and flew into the sky in an instant. Fang Accelerator's feet were entwined with a gust of wind, and Naza's shoulders with flaming wings also flew up. Your Majesty, at this time, everyone looked around vigilantly, powerful forces gathered on their bodies, and they might attack at any time. On this sky island, could there be any enemies? Corazon smiled slightly, did not speak, turned his head to look at the clouds floating in the sky, and said with a smile. My lords, smash this piece of sky to me, leaving no piece of it. Hiding in the clouds and controlling Sky Island, he wants to see who it is and what kind of devil fruit ability it is. Logia Cloud Fruit? Logia Cold Wind Fruit? Yes. Accelerator, Tiandao Pain, Naz and others respectfully responded. Although they don't know what Corazon means, they have to obey the king's order. In front of the screen, Kong's expression changed instantly, he took a deep breath and his heart was pounding. Advertisement no way, that guy won't be so arrogant as to get close to Corazon. At this moment, the hearts of Kong's office, Sengoku Garp and others jumped up and they looked at the picture nervously. Boom. Accelerator shot, depriving the island in the air of its kinetic energy, a powerful force wrapped around his arm, and with a wave of his hand, 2 black tornadoes pierced the sky overwhelmingly. The sporadic clouds around were swept in an instant, and the overwhelming storm even reached the sky above and the seawater below, it almost became a black storm of meters above. Shenluo Tianzheng, Tiandao Pain stretched out his palm, and a powerful force spread out from it, with a sense of oppression that destroyed everything, smashing the farther clouds to pieces. Natsu, north, use your strongest attack. Corazon's eyes suddenly lit up, and he saw the figure carefully dodging through the clouds, shouted loudly, with a smile on his face. It should have been thought of long ago. In the final analysis, there are not many capable people who can fly, let alone move such a huge sky island. Naz, yes, Your Majesty, Naz responded respectfully, and then the flames on his body suddenly started to burn, and the bright flame color dyed the sky red, covering the entire sea area like a burning cloud. And the flame on Corazon's body was only stronger than Natsu's, and the flame burned to the extreme, like an east blue sunbathing on the sun. Devil's Roar. Devil's Roar. The impact of the 2 violent flames instantly raised the temperature by hundreds of degrees. If a bird accidentally rushed in, it would be burned to ashes in an instant, not to mention the surrounding clouds, which would be directly evaporated. A cry of pain came from the cloud. The old man is really old. He has been dodging for the past few days, but he was discovered by you. In midair, a man with short black hair, a beard around his mouth, eyes closed, and an X-shaped scar on the left side of his forehead flew out of the clouds. Sighed and said, "If he doesn't come out again, I'm afraid he will be burned alive." While speaking, Fujitora glanced at Corazon and Natsu in a subtle way. Although the surface was calm, the shock in his heart was like overwhelming. The black tornado several thousand meters away destroyed the repulsion of the 10,000-meter cloud layer, and the scorching flames made Fujitora feel hot all over his body, as if he was about to burn. Looking at this man, Corazon smiled, and the future Marine Admiral, Fujitora, smiled. He is a gravity man who ate Paramecia devil fruit, the fruit of gravity, and can manipulate fan at will. His words can indeed move an island in the sky. Smile, how did you join Marine? Corazon asked with a smile. He also asked people to look for Fujitora, but unfortunately, there was nothing to be gained, and he did not expect to see it here. Thanks to Marine Admiral Sengoku's invitation, first joined Marine and became Marine Admiral. This time, I came here to deliver a message to the King of the Empire, Fujitora said in a calm voice. Marine Admiral. Corazon was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help laughing. In order to let you join Marine, Kong paid a lot of money. Don't dare. Fujitora said humbly. I'm not in the mood to hear your purpose. Tell me now, where did you hide my island? Corazon said with a cold gleam in his eyes. If he doesn't want the other sky island, he just doesn't want it, but he must not let go of that island full of gold, especially the gold on it. Chapter 101 Fujitora who was defeated with a flick of a finger, second update. Advertisement Chapter 101. Fujitora who was defeated with a flick of a finger, second update. You don't even ask, you are as arrogant as the rumors say, the Lord of the Empire, the demon Corazon. Fujitora said in a slightly angry voice. Corazon froze for a moment, then turned his head to look at Natsu. Hey, Natsu, am I being arrogant? Natsu, Accelerator, Orochimaru and others all shook their heads. Corazon is arrogant, it seems that he has never done it, right? Whether it was defeating Marine or defeating Bigimamu, they were all crushed by strength. To say that they are arrogant seems to be nonsense at all. HMPH, then why did you destroy the old man's country and create some illegal area? Do you know what kind of life the people there live? Fujitora said angrily. Corazon nodded thoughtfully. He has forgotten the name of the country in the lawless area, North Blue. He only remembers that after he left, that country was handed over to Doflamingo for management. It seems that that guy has done a lot of evil things. Well, it doesn't matter how you say it. A cold light flashed in Corazon's eyes, and he slowly stretched out his palm. Universal pull. He couldn't let go of that sky island no matter what. Since Fujitora refused to say anything, he could only do it. Boom. As soon as the deafening explosion sounded, a purple gravitational wave spread from Fujitora's body, and an astonishing explosion occurred with Corazon's gravity. Tiandao Pain was stunned for a moment, and looked at the collision between repulsion and gravity in surprise, and there was no difference between top and bottom. Doesn't this mean that even his gravity and gravity can't help this guy? That idiot. Kong's complexion changed, and he didn't dare to hesitate, so he quickly took out his phone and called, fearing that Fujitora would die if he hesitated for a moment. Blue. Fujitora held the knife in one hand, released gravity from the knife, and answered the phone with the other. Marshal Kong, what's the matter, diaresis? Idiot, give up the fight quickly, retreat to naval headquarters quickly, and fight that monster, you can't win, Kong said nervously. At the beginning, he was defeated by Corazon with one move. Although there were reasons for his carelessness, he could also see Corazon's strength. Fujitora is just a young man with decent strength. Even if he can fight Corazon a few moves, he is definitely not an opponent. It's okay Marshal Sora, the sky is also my domain, even if I can't win, I can escape with my ability, Fujitora said calmly. His gravity fruit is the high-ranking fruit of lion fruit. Although he feels that Corazon is very strong, Fujitora still has no intention of running away due to his trust in his own fruit. Gravity knife. Fujitora hung up the phone directly, looked at Corazon, and drew the knife quickly, leaving a few purple knife marks in midair. Boom. As Fujitora said, there was a loud rumbling sound in the sky. Orochimaru looked into the sky, and raised his eyebrows in surprise. It turned out to be a fiery red stone falling rapidly. It's similar to Pain's ability, Orochimaru said in surprise. The ability of Tiandao Pain is to create a meteorite out of thin air, and this meteorite descended from outer space. The essence of the two is almost the same. Advertisement. So, summoning meteorites is very common. Corazon stretched out his hand helplessly and said. Even if this meteorite is not as good as the Tengai Shinsei summoned by Uchiha Madara, but with its impact force, it is probably half as powerful as the Tengai Star. Gravity Tiger. Fujitora mercilessly rushed towards Corazon with a long knife in his hand. After just a few steps, he was already in front of Corazon. The long knife in his hand was draped heavily, like the roar of a purple tiger. Facing these two attacks, Corazon didn't feel nervous, but stretched out two fingers lightly. Joy. The flames burned in Corazon's hand, aiming at the falling meteorite in the long knife. Corazon bent his fingers and flicked lightly. Using only one finger, you really look down on me, Fujitora roared angrily, and slashed down heavily with the gravity knife. Boom. There was a huge impact sound, and the meteorites in the sky fell from the sky like a goddess scattering flowers. Meteorites are strong enough, but you always keep your eyes closed, is Zhang Er sick? Hearing the voice that suddenly appeared in front of him, Fujitori's eyes widened in disbelief. At this time, his eyes were not blind and he could see everything, but even so, it was difficult to see the rapid movement clearly. Instinctive vigilance caused Fujitori's long knife to reverse its direction, intending to exchange injuries for injuries. However, Corazon's speed was faster than Fujitori's, and he raised his palm quickly, aiming at Fujitori's head. Such a huge meteorite can't even support it for a moment. He knows that Fujitori's fighting power is very strong, which is similar to that of Sengoku in the same period. Otherwise, he would not be able to send Fujitora to Sky Island alone to snatch the Sky Island. But I didn't expect Fujitora to be so stupid, not to mention being defeated by Corazon head-on. He was also surrounded. How can he save him? Kong, who turned his head suddenly, scared Kizaru into a fright, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Marshal Kong, even if you send me, it's useless, I don't know the place. The violent air wave rushed along Fujitori's head, penetrated Fujitori's head with a bang, and hit the tornado in the distance, piercing the tornado out of a big hole. Kong yelled out in shock, then his face changed, and he poked the phone bug's phone number desperately, almost popping the phone bug. Fujitora spat out a mouthful of blood in pain. His eyes turned white suddenly, he passed out, and fell down from the cold wind of tens of thousands of meters. Corazon smiled slightly, his fingers popped out, and there was a burst of explosion in the air instantly, as if even the space could not bear this powerful force. However, Fujitora still didn't answer the call bug, and seemed to have passed out of a real faint. He originally thought that Fujitora's hiding would be flawless. After all, Corazon is so young and shouldn't have much combat experience, but he didn't expect that Fujitora, Lee's, was defeated in an instant. That stupid idiot, why didn't he answer the phone at this time? Is he really looking for death? Kong was yelled at in the marshal's office. After hearing Kizaru's explanation, Kong gave up the idea of letting Kizaru fly to the sky to find Corazon. Crack. There was a burst in the air, and then the fingers flicked on Fujitora's forehead. Wow. Kong panted, his heart was extremely tense, and even a trace of remorse appeared. I just deprived the entire sky of kinetic energy, please taste. Turning his head and shouting nervously, hurry up, get someone to move the clouds over Marijoy, or don't wait for World Summit, the battle will probably start soon. Kizaru, Chapter 102, the S-level forces to be summoned. Advertisement Chapter 102, the S-class force to be summoned. Orochimaru, find out the information. Corazon flew up from the sky below, and threw Fujitora's body directly to Orochimaru. Today's sky territory is almost the same size as the Empire, and a new S-level force can be summoned at that time. Just thinking about it makes Corazon's heart excited. Illusion. Underworld technique. Looking at the unconscious Fujitora, Orochimaru smiled hoarsely, and put his pale palm on Fujitora's head. In an instant, Orochimaru closed his eyes and immersed himself in his consciousness. When Orochimaru was trapped in the illusion space, Morgans pointed the suspicious videophone bug at Orochimaru, ready to see what tricks were sold in Orochimaru's gourd. Among these people, Orochimaru is the most feared by Morgans. Those eyes seem to want to throw people away, especially when Orochimaru is staring at his feathers. Morgans is frightened all over, trembling. After 20 minutes had passed, Orochimaru licked his lips, slowly opened his eyes, removed his hands from Fujitora's head and said hoarsely, Your Majesty, I have roughly understood the situation. This guy named Yishao was ordered to come over to monitor you, and he was responsible for transferring some sky islands to the skies above the naval headquarters and world government. It has been used as a back road. Now the sky islands on the Grand Line have an extremely large area of 507 the place, just above the world government. What? Heroes from all over the world shouted out in shock. Their eyes were full of unbelievable things. They were all comatose, without any punishment, without any forced questioning. It was so easy to get out. Doesn't this mean that as long as a person is caught, they will be transparent in front of Corazon? Thinking of this, whether it is a pirate or a marine, they all feel a chill in their hearts. Pluton Rayleigh clenched his palms tightly. It was just an illusion, but it brought him a particularly strong pressure. The world government was even more stunned, speechless. Marine's new admiral, Yishao, codenamed Fujitora, once fought with Sengoku Admiral, and the two were evenly divided. However, in just 2 moves, he was defeated by Corazon with his strength, and even the intelligence was tricked out. Hurry up and tell the 5 elders to disperse the clouds quickly. It's okay to penetrate the Sky Island, but don't let the Corazon pass. Kong roared loudly. Yes. Sengoku responded loudly, and ran anxiously to the phone bug to make a quick call. Garp was also nervous, and started eating senbei. We haven't shipped any Sky Islands from naval headquarters yet, but there are already 3 Sky Islands above Marijoy. Once Corazon passes by, there will definitely be a battle with the world government. The more Kong thought about it, the more he had a headache. He turned his head and called the phone number. World government, the sky above Marijoy, you chose to run away before even starting the battle, what a shame. Corazon snorted and snorted, with flames burning under his feet. He quickly walked towards the direction of world government. He wants to see if the world government has the strength to plot against him, and whether it has the strength to stop him. Corazon was sitting on the golden boat, driven by the gravity of heavenly Dao Pain. An accelerator reduced the kinetic energy friction, and came to the sky above the world government at an extremely fast speed. Really? Advertisement, the largest sky island continent, owning land, Angel Island, Bye Sea, the golden city of Shandora. That fellow Fujitora has a good vision, and actually snatched this sky island away. Corazon couldn't help but praise. Most of the sky islands he encountered these days were small islands, but this time the sky island in front of him was said to be an island, but it was actually more like a continent. Although the population is small, the area is very large. The cumulus cloud covers the sea area beside the red line, and there is a dense blackness below. Pen, bring this sky island back. Seeing that no one dared to come out to stop him, Corazon twitched his mouth, looked at Tiandao Pain and said. In his perception, Marijoy, there are only a few, BGFB, celestial dragons and tens of thousands of slaves left. In addition, there are 2 places that cannot be seen through, but obviously, the world government has made preparations for the battle, and deliberately scattered the celestial dragons to avoid serious damage. Yes. Tiandao Pain responded respectfully, and stretched out his palm to face the piece of Sky Island. The strong gravitational force made Sky Island move slowly, followed behind Tiandao Pain, and headed for a piece of sea in the distance. Now, only Orochimaru, Naz, Accelerator and Corazon are left on the field. Your Majesty, do you need me to destroy this island? Accelerator looked at the madness in Redline's eyes, and laughed excitedly. If it was me, I could destroy this island in an instant. Well, just destroy it, let me get through this place. Corazon hooked the corner of his mouth, stopped Accelerator and said with a smile. Of course, he would not disbelieve the words of Accelerator. After all, Accelerator's ability is pushed to the extreme, and he can even deprive the planet of its rotation power for a few seconds, and use this power to destroy it. Let alone Marijoy, I am afraid that the Fishman Island below will also burp on the spot. Yes, Your Majesty. Accelerator nodded in disappointment, and turned his head to look at the entrance of the red line that Corazon was pointing at. Is there? Drink. Accelerator shot over in an instant, creating 2 black tornadoes under his feet. Using this momentum, Accelerator reached the edge of the red line in just a few seconds. What? What is he doing? Whitebeard frowned suspiciously. He hadn't really figured out what the purpose of Corazon's move was. Put your hand on the red line, Dad. Do you think Corazon is thinking? Mark swallowed dryly. An astonishing idea appeared in his mind. You mean destroy the red line? Whitebeard said what was in Marco's heart, and then he laughed and said, Silly son, even your father and I can't break the red line. How can that brat break it? Drink. In the picture, Accelerator raised his arms, and the wind crazily converged towards a point above his head, and the air was compressed with a super high compression rate. Even the terrifying tornado was shattered, and the scattered wind and waves continued to blow towards him. Accelerator gathered above his head. As the air and the strong wind are continuously compressed, the clouds in the sky rotate like Uzumaki, and a white light is slowly born in the center. And the photosphere is getting bigger and bigger, and at the same time, it seems that there is an extra sun above the whole Marijoy, making the whole island extremely hot. Chapter 103 Crushes the Red Line, 4th More, Advertisement. Chapter 103 Breaking the Red Line, 4th Update. In the vicinity of Marijoy, the atmospheric Uzumaki is constantly spinning with a turbulent wind, and it seems that there is another white sun in the sky. This spectacle is enough to scare everyone who sees this scene. Is this what Corazon's men did again? You must not keep Corazon, it is too dangerous. Indeed, I didn't expect such a monster to be hidden among his subordinates. But vector control, you can control the direction of all forces, how to kill. The 5 elders fell silent for a moment. Accelerator could control the direction of all forces, Natsu's flame, Tiandao Pain's repulsive and gravitational force. Even Admiral's attack couldn't hurt the slightest bit. Now Admiral didn't come at all. They waited for someone to go and could only give away the head. Other than that, it had no effect at all, so they could only wait and see from a distance. Your Majesty, that idiot Accelerator released an indiscriminate attack. Should we take a few steps back? Naz looked at the dazzling light, cursed secretly, turned his head to Corazon and asked respectfully. Such a powerful power fluctuation, even if his demon form wants to resist it, it is not easy. Tiandao Pain left, and Orochimaru didn't say a word. This level of attack intensity was no longer something he could resist. No, don't take this kind of attack to heart, Corazon said, stretching out his palm. The tsunami that was supposed to set off at any time stopped instantly after Corazon stretched out his palm. Of course, only the area where Corazon was located. He was not kind enough to resist the attack for the world government. Now I know why that kid wants to conquer the sky through live broadcast. Whitebeard took a deep breath. This is to show his strength. Although it is very old-fashioned, but I have to say, it is really effective. Not only him, but any force in the sea was terrified to see this scene. Dare to draw a sword against the world government. The most important thing is to succeed. Isn't this less dangerous than the world government? Crack, crack, crack. Thunderbolts rushed out of the white ball of light, and the whole ball of light fluctuated violently irregularly, as if it was about to explode at any time. Ha 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 ha. After the plasma formed by condensing the wind at one point, and using this force to blow up the entire island to pieces, where do you hide? Accelerator clenched his hands into fists and shouted wildly. We must stop him. 5 elders and the others changed their faces drastically when they heard this, and regardless of other things, they frantically rushed towards Accelerator, trying to stop his actions. The Red Line is not an island, it is an important place that separates the world and the new world. At this time, a ray of light appeared next to Accelerator almost immediately, and when this Marijoy might be destroyed by Accelerator at any time, he had no way to continue paddling, and almost used all his strength to fly into the sky, hands together in a cross. Crossbeam. Steelbone meteor. Advertisement. Garp roared. Knowing that the situation was critical, he didn't reserve the slightest bit of strength, regardless of being above the sea. He directly threw an iron ball comparable to a mountain into the air, and threw it towards Accelerator. Your Majesty, get out of here! Orochimaru's expression changed. His teeth turned into fangs, his body was covered with scales, and he instantly transformed into Yamada no Orochi's state. He pointed at the iron ball coldly with his fangs exposed, trying to block the iron ball with his head. Orochimaru, you are the one to get out of the way, this kind of attack. In Corazon's eyes, Rinnegan turned around and flew into the air. Facing the iron ball flying across, his arms were ablaze, depriving all the kinetic energy of the nearby sea area. His hands were wrapped in flames and white light, and he punched him. Boom! In Garp's dignified gaze, even if the specially made big iron ball covered armament hockey without blocking it, violent flames instantly penetrated the big iron ball. In Garp's shocked gaze, an extremely powerful wave shook the iron ball. Gotta smash. Large pieces of steel were crushed and fell into the sea, setting off monstrous waves. The iron ball made of sea stone, even the armament hockey covering the old man, was destroyed so easily. Garp shrank his pupils and shouted in disbelief. Ha 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 ha. It's too late, there's nothing I can do for you now, let's die with this island. At the edge of the red line, Accelerator laughed and put his hands together suddenly. The light from Kizaru stopped strangely, the plasma ball in the sky also stopped instantly, and the destructive white light began to spread towards the entire Red 10 continent. Ask for flowers oh. It's even able to stop the light, that monster Accelerator hasn't mastered armament hockey yet. Kizaru yelled in disbelief. Is it too late? Will Red Line Marijoy be destroyed because of this? Sengoku stared at the sphere emitting white light, and cried out in grief. Well, will the Red Line be destroyed because of this? Does it have that much to do with your marine? Corazon chuckled, and a strange figure appeared next to Sengoku, sitting on Sengoku's shoulder in the form of a giant Buddha, and asked lazily Road. Corazon. Looking at the figure that suddenly appeared on his shoulder, Sengoku's eyes almost popped out, his mouth was wide enough to eat a person. Without the slightest hesitation, he slapped it with his gleaming golden hand. Bounce. Corazon smiled and flicked his fingers, and made a bang with Sengoku's hand, as if touching a mountain. Sengoku's face changed drastically, he took a few steps back, and sat down on the deck. In the center of the battle, Kong didn't notice what was happening on the ship at all, and looked at the sky with a heavy face. This kind of power that appeared to be a large-scale explosion, even if he wanted to stop it, he couldn't stop such a large-scale explosion. No, Red Line can't live without, Akainu roared. The white-haired demon is attacking the middle area of the Red Line. As long as I cover it with magma, I can increase the strong defense. At that time, you will take action to finish the white-haired demon. After speaking, hot magma boiled on Akainu's arm, his mouth roared, his face seemed to be deformed, and he continued to use great eruption regardless, covering part of the Red Line. This is already my best effort, and I don't know if I can defend myself. Akainu kept sweating on his forehead, half kneeling on the ground weakly. This was already the limit of what he could do. So, who do you expect to solve Accelerator? Kong looked at Jian with a twitching corner of his mouth. Chapter 104 Ultimate of Force, Destroy Red Line's Plasma, 5th Change. Advertisement Chapter 104 Ultimate of Lee, Destroy Red Line's Plasma, 5th Change. Marshal Kong, what are you waiting for? That guy's attack is about to take shape, don't be afraid. Go and stop him. Akainu half kneeled on the ground, watched Accelerator's movements, and roared loudly. Kong almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Even if he didn't vomit blood, he was choked and coughed non-stop, his face was dark. He wondered if Akainu wanted him to die, and then become the Marine Marshal himself. Will he dare to go in this situation? Accelerator's attack intensity, even if it hasn't been formed yet, has already caused the walls of the Red Line to peel off. With this deterrent force alone, whoever attacks and who dies, Kong has no doubts. Marshal Kong, what are you waiting for? Now only you can go. For the safety of the world government, what can you do if you sacrifice? 027. Akainu shouted anxiously. MD. Kong cursed secretly in his heart. His face was extremely bitter. That B********** D Akainu said so. If he doesn't go up, after this incident, the world government will definitely not let him go. I didn't expect to come in the end, and I died in the hands of that B******** D Akainu. Gritting his teeth, Kong showed a generous expression on his face, and stepped on his feet, about to rush into the air. However, at this moment, a violent force came from Kong's side, accompanied by a foreign voice. How about saving money to buy coffin boards if you don't retire at such an old age? Just lie down for me. Kong's face darkened. He was only in his prime in his 60s. Okay, he was saving money to buy a woolen coffin board. If it wasn't for the fact that Marine didn't have anyone who could take the lead, he would have retired a long time ago. Boom. Corazon's figure flickered several times, making people dazzled, and it was impossible to see his speed clearly. Finally, under the flickering, he actually stood on Kong's shoulder, and under the latter's shocked gaze, he stomped heavily. Crack. There was a crisp bone-breaking sound, and Kong slammed into the deck of the warship with a thud, clutching his arms, and screaming in pain. As expected of Marshal Kong, at my speed, he can still cover armament hockey. Amazing, amazing. Corazon clapped his hands and praised, and then, with the corner of Kong's mouth twitching, he kicked 3 times. Puff. Corazon you be D. Where are you kicking? Kong's eyes widened suddenly, cold sweat dripped from his head, he covered his lower body and cursed in pain. If he hadn't reacted quickly, he might have become the second eunuch of One Piece world. When Corazon lowered his head, He realized where he was attacking just now, curled his lips slightly, waved his hand indifferently and said, "You are so old, even if I don't play, you can't use it anymore, why care about this?" Puff. Kong vomited blood out of breath, struggling to get up and find Corazon desperately. Even if he is 100 years old, that thing is still his treasure. Advertisement, huh? Corazon raised his eyebrows, raised his right foot, and with a bang, flames were burning on it, looking at Kong threateningly. "Lie down or I'll let Morgan's live stream how Kong became a eunuch." Puff. Kong was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood. He glanced at Corazon with grief and indignation. After he glanced at Corazon's burning feet and the position of his feet, he couldn't help but let out a heart-piercing roar of grief. "Morgans, Lousy will definitely kill you." Morgans, who was excited about taking photos live. Morgans almost cried. What's his business? He was also coerced. Okay. If he doesn't do it, Corazon can pull out his bird feathers. How dare he not do it? You still dare to threaten people? Corazon frowned, stepped on Kong's chest, and the blood in Kong's body flowed back immediately. His face was flushed and spit out blood. He raised his hand to say something, but the blood flowed back to the heart, and the palm of his hand fell to the deck with a slap, completely passed out. Trash, can't beat or run. Seeing this scene on the warship next to Akainu, he cursed in a low voice, and hid away from the warship, clenched his hands tightly. If he didn't know that Kong would not do something to surrender to the enemy, he would have wondered if Kong was playing him. The group of trash can't be counted on. I can only hope that my magma wall can stop the explosion, Akainu said through gritted teeth. Don't count on it, it's the ultimate force, plasma. Even the planet's rotation is slowed down for a few seconds to form an attack. It's not bad if it didn't pierce the sky, right? Akainu's heart suddenly missed a beat, and he turned around in a panic, only to see Corazon standing on the flag of the marine warship with a smile on his face. Big spray. The hot magma converged on Akainu's arm, but before the convergence was complete, Akainu shrank his pupils and found that Corazon had disappeared on the banner at such a fast speed that he could only see an afterimage. Is it here? Akainu let out an angry roar. No matter what happened, he threw a punch behind him, and the figure of Corazon stood behind Akainu impressively, and punched with his fingers. Boom. On one finger, the deprived kinetic energy and the power of the devil instantly blasted Akainu into a sky full of magma. When Akainu just transformed out of his body, Corazon kicked Akainu's lower th. Well. Akainu's eyes widened suddenly, a heartbreaking pain spread from his mind, and he collapsed on the deck with a plop. After finishing all this, Corazon turned his head to look at Accelerator with excitement in his eyes. Accelerator controls all the cold wind around the red line, concentrates the wind at the same point, and compresses the air with a super high compression rate of 1.1, turning it into a high heat sphere exceeding 10,000 degrees Celsius, and condensing the surrounding air. The atoms are forcibly decomposed into cations and electrons. This is the plasma in front of me, which is the product of power decomposed and fused into ultimate. The power of its explosion is comparable to the explosion produced when a heavy meteorite destroys the Earth. Corazon also thought about using this trick, but his physical strength is different from Accelerator's. Once he loses control, it may affect not only the red line, but maybe this sea area will be reduced to ashes. Under Corazon's gaze, the light sphere in front of Accelerator became more and more dazzling, and the temperature became hotter and hotter. Suddenly, the white light suddenly spread, and the dazzling light covered everything. Boom. Chapter 105 Back to the Empire. The summoning is ready to begin. Chapter 6. Advertisement. Chapter 105 Back to the Empire. The summoning is ready to begin. Chapter 6. The dazzling white light is so dazzling that people can look directly at it. The entire sea area is like a mirror reflected in the sea. The moon is shining on the sea surface. Even the naval headquarters can see this dazzling light across the sea. Boom. Boom. The white light shrank instantly, and then enveloped the red line. The deafening explosion instantly deafened the marine or world government officials around the red line. They only felt a white light envelop them and completely lost consciousness. Garp, run quickly, don't be swept in by this, or you will only have a dead end. Sengoku shouted anxiously, grabbed the marine warship and carried it on his shoulders, wishing he could grow 8 legs, and fled away at a high speed. Mom. Garp's eyelids twitched when he saw it, and he swallowed dryly. If it was covered, even if he covered armament hockey, he would be injured, let alone those marines. 16 Thinking of this, Garp wanted to slap himself twice. Why did he have to bring the dragon here? He was such a son. Boom. Garp grabbed the marine warship, carried it on top of his head, and fled to the distance like burning his buttocks. Orochimaru and Natsu didn't stop them, and quickly came to Corazon's side. The power released by Corazon easily resisted the destructive plasma explosion. That brat. 5 elders stood on top of Marijoy, their faces extremely ugly. Although the plasma did not affect Marijoy, they really couldn't imagine what the red line would look like under the explosion. The violent waves rushed up to a height of thousands of meters, and violently beat towards the distance. Sabodi Archipelago was almost destroyed in the waves. Even naval headquarters, which is extremely far away, has set off monstrous waves. But I don't know when. The sky darkened, rumbling thunder resounded continuously, and countless thunders shuttled among the thunderclouds. After the plasma explosion ended, Accelerator looked at the tragedy in front of him, laughed wildly in excitement, and then returned to the marine warship where Corazon was located. Sengoku and Garp, who fled here with their boats on their backs, dared to look back, seeing that it didn't matter. Their eyes almost popped out of fright. Garp was stunned at the scene before him. Where's the red line? Master Sengoku cried out, his eyes were filled with shock. At this moment, a gap in the originally continuous red line was completely smashed, and the violent waves not only swept across the Grand Line, but also slapped towards the New World. The red line, which originally blocked the Grand Line and New World, was completely smashed into a gap of thousands of meters at this moment. The sea has been opened up. Really, Accelerator, you are too ruthless. Why don't you destroy the red line like this? Corazon raised his brows and said, looking at the miserable state of the red line in front of him. Hoo. Accelerator was panting heavily, but Ultimate's excitement was revealed in his eyes. Manipulation is different from simple reflection. It is necessary to calculate the direction before change, and direction after change, so it is quite troublesome. Controlling the cold wind of the red line is already his limit. Advertisement, forget it. Seeing you like this, I don't bother to talk about you. Let's go. Corazon smiled slightly, put Accelerator's body on his shoulders, and gestured to Natsu and Orochimaru. The latter nodded knowingly, grabbed the startled Morgans, and followed Corazon's footsteps. Corazon couldn't help getting excited when he thought of the rewards he would get for conquering the sky after returning to the Empire. Although the influence is enough, it is of course exciting to make one's own influence stronger. Corazon glanced at the sky, with a slight coldness in his eyes. This black sky is not his masterpiece. At the same time, the world fell into silence. During the half-month live broadcast, the entire world, large and small, have installed phone bugs that allow them to watch the Corazon live broadcast. Although Corazon conquering the sky is very handsome, there is no strong person after all, so I only feel that Corazon is very strong, but I don't know how strong it is. But now, they have thoroughly understood Corazon's strength, and their jaws are about to drop from the fright. Red, the red line is blasted. The clown buggy was on the boat in Roger's sea. He hugged Roger's thigh with snot and tears running down his nose and tears. Captain Roger, let's retire, stop being pirates, how can we be opponents in the face of this monster? Roger was also frightened, his nose hairs twitched, his mouth opened wide, and he looked stupid. This. Roger. Pluton Rayleigh swallowed dryly, and said stiffly, although Buggy is usually not in shape, this time, I kind of agree with what he said. If this kind of monster fights with us, I'm afraid Bullet and I can resist a few moves. Bullet nodded at 270, with a hint of fanaticism in his eyes. He boarded the ship to challenge Roger, but now, he found someone stronger than Roger. One-way traffic, one-way street of death. No, the demon Corazon can easily withstand that impact, stronger than Accelerator. Looking at the unpredictable expressions of his crew members, Roger couldn't help recalling the past. Will Corazon, the king of the Empire, Luke's be a lesson for you? Father, why don't we join the Empire? Anyway, with the lessons learned from Bigimamu, we are not too ashamed. On the Whitebeard Pirates, the Phoenix Marco said dryly. In the past few days, his attitude has changed from being hostile at the beginning to worrying, and then to despair again. And all of this was brought to him by Corazon. Looking at the terrified eyes of his sons, Whitebeard took a deep breath, grabbed the big knife and walked towards the bow. After a while, he said in a deep voice, is it Corazon's empire? Let's see if he can survive this disaster. The members of the Whitebeard Pirates who heard this sentence widened their eyes in shock, and both Marco the Phoenix and Blackbeard felt their hearts beating rapidly. That old man who is not afraid of nothing is actually thinking about joining the Empire. Chapter 106S Level Forces, The Kingdom of Monsters, 7th Update. Advertisement Chapter 106S Class Force, Monster Kingdom, 7th Update. It's really not easy to connect the Sky Continent with the Empire. After Orochimaru returned to the Empire, he licked his lips with an excited expression when he heard the order from Corazon. Yes, after all, the distance between the sky and the earth is 10,000 meters. If you want to connect with this gap, you must rely on stairs alone. Vegapunk said with some headaches. If you use the stairs, ordinary people will be exhausted halfway through the 10,000-meter sky, let alone carrying goods to trade. What's more, the stability of the stairs also requires a lot of hard work. After all, the feat of the Golden Palace cannot be replicated. Thinking, Vegapunk glanced at the center of the Empire, the towering Golden Palace. Use Tezuro's Golden Fruit ability, plus all the gold in the Empire, to form a golden palace with a hollow interior, because the walls are all hollow inside. Use Tezuro's ability to make it strong, and it is possible to reach a height of 10,000 meters feet. Ho, don't think about that, ordinary people are not qualified to enter the royal palace, Orochimaru said with a hoarse smile. Indeed, we will go to Academy City in a while to see if the people there have any good ideas, and call Accelerator and Mardo. Vegapunk nodded and said. Accelerator's vector control and Pluton Mardo's underworld plans may come in handy at this time. Gaidong Manue rubbed his temples with a headache and said, it seems that I went to UNUA Academy to be a taster, I'm afraid I won't be able to come back for a while. When Orochimaru and Vegapunk were studying, Golden Lion kept a dark face, and under the supervision of Afei Didera and Tiandao Pain, he used his ability to transport a large number of Sky Islanders and the residents of the Empire back and forth. Laozi is a great pirate at sea, aren't you afraid that I will kill you? Golden Lion asked with a dark face. His lion fruit combat power is amazing, even Roger dare not underestimate it, but such a powerful devil fruit ability is actually used as a lift. Old Lion, this is Yanbei. I heard that it can breathe fire, just press this button. Afei completely ignored the threat of the Golden Lion, excitedly grabbed a shell, and pressed it on the forehead of the Golden Lion. Golden Lion's long blonde hair was directly burned into an explosive head, and the corners of his mouth twitched in anger. He swore that if he didn't want to commit suicide, and didn't want to be beaten up by these 3 bastards, he would definitely kill these 3 guys. Faye, this is a platoon shell, let's try it, Deidara said excitedly while holding a shell. Then Deidara gave Golden Lion a dark face, lightly. Boom. With a scream, Golden Lion was directly blasted into the sea. When it was fished out, its face was purple with anger, and the corners of its mouth twitched as it looked at the 2 live treasures, and then at Tiandao Pain. This guy doesn't need to rest. If it weren't for Tiandao Pain's 24-hour surveillance, Golden Lion would have run away long ago. Seeing the treatment of Golden Lion, Aokiji heaved a sigh of relief. Compared with the Golden Lion of the Toolman, he only needs to make some ice and give it to the chefs of UNUA Academy. Fortunately, Aokiji patted his chest, then his head, as if thinking of something. He walked towards the center of the island. Yin agreed. I want to compete with me in ice magic today, I almost forgot. Compared with the domestic scene, Naval Headquarters is much gloomy. Kong and Akainu sat in their offices at Naval Headquarters, wrapped in bandages and looking like level 9 disabled persons. Marshal Kong, why did Corazon protect your warship during that explosion? Shouldn't you give me an explanation for this? Akainu asked angrily. Sengoku and Garp ran away with the boat on their shoulders, not counting, but he and Kong, both were near the explosion. Advertisement not to mention all his cronies were dead, even he was blown into the sea. If it wasn't for the Murlocs who rescued him, Akainu might not even be able to see the sun today. It's full of anger. Are you questioning the old man? Kong slapped the table and said angrily. Akainu snorted coldly, and clenched his palms tightly. He has confirmed that Kong must have a connection with Corazon. Whether Sengoku and Garp have betrayed Marine is also a question. But at this moment, it is not the time to care about this. I won't talk about this matter now, Akainu said coldly. There is news from Kaido of the Beasts that they have agreed to our plan, but there are some conditions. The world government has already agreed. This time it will be up to me and Garp Paluzolino to support. Marine will team up with pirates, Sakazuki. Sengoku looked at Akainu angrily. If he hadn't whispered in Five Elders' ear, how could such a thing have happened? Are you still disobeying the orders of the world government? Akainu said coldly. After losing the thing below, Akainu's character became more and more extreme, and he would kill someone if he disagreed. After being authorized by the world government, his personality became more and more distorted. At the same time, his power was even greater than that of Marshal Marine. Although Sengoku was angry in his heart, he did not dare to disobey the order of the world government, so he could only walk out of the handsome man with a cold snort. Office door. And at this moment, on the top of the 10,000-meter Golden Palace, Corazon is hugging Momosagi, looking at the sea of clouds excitedly. Hold a sister in your arms, double the damage. With Momosagi in his arms, he wondered if his luck would be any better. Big pervert, big devil, big pervert, big villain. Momosagi blushed and cursed in an indignant, no lord's, voice. Corazon ignored Momosagi's whispered cursing, excitedly turned his eyes to his mind, and said, System, the sky has been conquered by me, extract the reward for conquering the sky. Host has conquered the sky, got the chance to summon S-level forces, and is screening for host. H. Big Yokai Sessamaru, Miko Kikyo, summoning dog tribe forces. Mage Matria, because the summoning power is relatively large, the time is 10 seconds. Great monster Lingyue Fairy, great monster Lingyue Fairy. T. Life, the screening is over, the goal is the world of Inuyasha. Sifting. Half-demon Inuyasha, the big monster fighting Tooth King. Chapter 107 Miko Kikyo and Sessamaru Inuyasha, first update. Advertisement Chapter 107 Miko Kikyo and Sessamaru Inuyasha, first update. I go. Even the monsters are out. Do-Ya Wang's family, why are you dragging your family around? Corazon's eyes were full of shock. The group of monsters belonging to the King of Fighting Tooth and Sessamaru and Inuyasha are still in it, which is equivalent to 4 big monsters, and the lifespan of the big monsters is hundreds or thousands of years old. They actually summoned this force. You must know that Do-Ya Wang is the most powerful monster in the Sengoku period. He holds 3 knives, each of which has the ability to be unpredictable. The most important thing is that because Inuyasha, Shao Iwamaru and others are monsters, their lifespan is hundreds or thousands of years old, which can be said to be longer than the history of world government. What surprised Corazon the most was the group of monsters brought out by King Do-Ya. There are more than 500,000 monsters. Although not many, each monster has extremely powerful fighting power. System, Priestess Kikyo, are you sure you came out with these monsters? Corazon swallowed and asked excitedly. 197 Kikyo is the maiden who guarded the Jade of the 4 Souls in the Sengoku period. She has powerful spiritual power and calm thinking and judgment. Usually, only one arrow of breaking the devil can destroy the monsters who come to grab the Jade. The combat power is not even weaker than killing Maru, such a powerful yokai. Reporting to the host, the Celestial Clan, like Academy City, is the top S-level force. Among them, Kikyo Matria and others are too closely related to Inuyasha, and they were also summoned, but due to time reasons, there is no memory. Hiss. Corazon couldn't help taking a breath after hearing this, and then a look of surprise appeared on his face. He just said, Sessamaru is a big monster, and his father Do-Ya Wang is also a big monster. These two people should not be together. It seems that it is because of the chaos of time and space in that world. System. Check for me. What is the population I have now? After learning that the dogs in the Inuyasha world are only S-level forces, Corazon looks forward to sulfur monosulfide level forces even more. Being able to be so different from sulfur monosulfide level forces, is it possible that they have the ability to destroy the entire world? Report to Host. BGED, currently, there are 9 million people under the command of Host, and there are still 1 million people short of an S-level summon. Currently, there are 1.9 million soldiers under Host's command, who have S-level summons once, and when they reach 5 million soldiers, they can be summoned by sulfur monosulfide level forces. The population is 1 million short, but the soldiers are almost 3 million short? After hearing the words of the system, Corazon pondered. Although Sky Island is bigger than the Empire, but because the number of people in Sky Island is small, the increase is not very large. Corazon has no idea about this, but... Soldier. D. One Piece world has a lot of troops. Although Corazon has cloning technology, it is not good for an army to use all clones, and the people and soldiers should reach a perfect ratio. Of course, 10,000 Misaka sisters still have to be produced. Except for the 10,000 Misaka sisters, the place where there are many soldiers in the pirate world. Corazon stroked his chin, pondering. Advertisement. Titan family. No, there are less than a few 100,000 people in total? Fur family. Consider it. Murlocs. Murlocs must die. After careful consideration, Corazon found that only Wano Kuni and the fur race could rapidly increase his people and troops. Needless to say, Wano Kuni is a country of warriors, and the fur race is also all people. Just facing the fur tribe and Wano Kuni, Inuyasha and their big monsters are perfect. After making up his mind, Corazon called Ju, asking him to investigate Wano Kuni's information. Wano Kuni is a country of samurai, and the guys in it are very stubborn, but Corazon doesn't care about this. After all, people always want to live. Following the prompt in his mind, Corazon excitedly looked outside the palace, and saw that in the area outside the palace, with the flash of light, the seawater was violently discharged, which was bigger than Academy City several times the islands broke through the water. The gray clouds above the island were not dark clouds. Corazon took a closer look and gasped for breath. They turned out to be thousands of monsters. It is transparent, like the ghosts of wronged souls, gathering together to form a gray cloud. No wonder there are always legends of ghosts walking at night. I am afraid that in the era of wars, ghosts were the most common monsters, more than other monsters. Corazon thought while suppressing the numbness of his scalp. Witch Kikyo, I have met the king. While Corazon was thinking, an arrow with powerful spiritual power cut through hundreds of ghosts and formed a passage. On the side of the road, there is a woman with dark eyes, oval face, black and beautiful hairstyle, hair tied with a plain white headband, delicate and beautiful facial features, white and red priestess clothing, and a simple bow and arrow on her back. The beautiful woman walked over slowly. Kankyo. Corazon read out the name of the beautiful woman in front of her, the most powerful shrine maiden in the Sengoku era. No wonder one arrow can kill hundreds of ghosts. Kikyo calmly beheaded several ghosts approaching Corazon, and then stood respectfully behind Corazon. Immediately afterwards, a few more people came out from the center of the island. Seeing these people, many ghosts screamed, circled and whizzed and fled to the distance, as if they were extremely afraid of these figures. The leader is a man with long silver white hair, a moon seal on his forehead, two black demon patterns on his left and right cheeks, and a man wearing half armor. Behind the man is Sessamaru, with hexagonal plums floating on a white kimono, with brilliant golden eyes, a noble air, expressionless and taciturn. Next to Sessamaru is Inuyasha with silver hair and wearing a red fire mouse robe. Waiting for the last fairy Lingyue to come out, the four ghosts half kneeled respectfully on the ground. I have seen the king. Seeing the four big silver-haired monsters half kneeling respectfully on the ground in front of him, the corners of Corazon's mouth slightly raised a subtle arc, and he waved his hand to make them stand up. I have to say that Inuyasha and the others came at the right time. This time the enemy happened to be the fur clan belonging to the beast. Let a group of beasts fight against monsters. This battle really interested Corazon too much. Your Majesty, news has arrived. Kneeling on the ground respectfully, he said. Reporting to the king, Wano Kuni is currently being attacked by Kaido of the beasts and marine, and it is almost unable to survive. Chapter 108 Killing the natural teeth of the people from the other side, second change. Advertisement Chapter 108. The natural teeth that slay the people from the other side, second change. Oh. Hearing that Kaido of the beasts and marine teamed up suddenly, Corazon raised his eyebrows in surprise, and then rubbed his chin playfully. These guys are definitely not thinking of anything good. Pirates and marine teamed up. Although Corazon and Corazon couldn't fight together, Corazon was sure in his heart that this was 100% aimed at himself, without any basis, just a feeling. After pondering for a few seconds, Corazon raised a smile and said, Masters, you continue to conquer other kingdoms. Next, I will leave for a period of time. The period will be a week. During this period, the empire will be handed over to you. No matter what idea Marine had, Corazon didn't care much. In the face of absolute strength, everything is false, and strength can crush everything. However, Wano Kuni was pre-booked by Corazon, so naturally it will not be handed over to Kaido of the beasts. Yes, Your Majesty, Orochimaru, Accelerator, Tiandao Pain and the others respectfully responded. The prisoners in Impel down, and now the coolie farmers, all sighed in disappointment when they saw this scene. They wanted to escape with these monsters, it was simply a dream. Suddenly, Corazon's figure flickered, his pupils stood upright, with a dangerous gaze, and a savage atmosphere exuded from his whole body, and he pressed Bigumamu on the head. Boom! With a loud noise, Bigumamu's head was deeply pressed into the soil, and the ground continued to crack, spreading along the center, like a spider's web, and countless mouths were exposed from the ground, screaming loudly. Corazon's powerful power made Bigumamu, a strong monster, scream in pain, feeling as if his head was going to be crushed. Bigumamu, do you think I didn't find out what you did? Corazon lowered his head, and said in a cold tone. Secretly deprive people of their souls, use the stolen souls to create the earth homies, and prepare to take people away. You are so brave, do you really think that I will not kill you? Bigumam's pupils shrank sharply, and it was known that she secretly deprived other people's souls. The kingdom of death. Bigumam roared sharply, and the surrounding sky instantly darkened, like the darkness before a storm, in which Bigumam's body looked extremely terrifying. Corazon, my old lady is one of the big pirates in the sea. How could she stay in your small island that is about to be destroyed? You little brat, get the hell out of here. Bigum's eyes became crazy, and he roared heart-piercingly, and stretched out his palm to grab Corazon. She must escape from here, she must escape from here, otherwise, once Marine is ready, she will definitely die in this empire middle. Dare to attack Zun Wang, court death, Accelerator's eyes turned cold, and he sneered again. As soon as he stepped on the ground, he was about to join the battle, but was stopped by Corazon's hand. Forehead, Corazon opened his palms, rubbed his temples dumbfounded, looked helplessly at his tongue and said, why are there always people who are overwhelmed and think they can defeat me? Forget it, I'll try it with you, my new power. Corazon straightened his face and shouted. Natural teeth. Following Corazon's voice, a ray of light flashed in Corazon's hand in an instant, and a simple long knife drew two semicircles in the sky and flew into Corazon's hand. Advertisement. Pulling out the long knife, he played with two knives in his hand and looked at Bigumamu playfully. Die to me. Bigumamu roared madly, covered armament hockey with his hands, put on a powerful force, and grabbed Corazon's soul. At the same time, homies on the ground opened their mouths and bit Corazon's leg, trying to make Corazon immobile. Corazon raised the long knife calmly, and said in a soft voice, the knife that does not kill has natural teeth, and it is activated with compassion. One swing of the knife can save hundreds of lives, and it is activated with the heart of killing. People, please teach me more. Shua. After the words fell, Corazon swung his natural teeth downwards in midair, leaving behind a beautiful moonlight. At this time, Homies' big mouth on the ground stopped strangely. After a heart-piercing scream, Homies' soul was all beheaded, turning into little stars and disappearing into the air. What? Bigumamu's face changed, and before he could move, he felt a pain in his chest, and Corazon passed him by. Ask for flowers, Bigumam, you are also from the other side. Corazon retracted the natural tooth into the sheath, threw it to the Duya king, looked at Bigumamu lightly and said. .0. Corazon just glanced at them coldly, then turned to look at Orochimaru, who licked his lips evilly and nodded knowingly. The corners of Golden Lion's mouth twitched, with an expression of shock and despair, feeling that he has been living under the surveillance of others for so long. The two of them hugged Golden Lion's shoulders tightly, one left and one right, and said with dangerous gazes. Thump. Poof. The soul fruit, recognized by Dian Shengya as the ability of the dead world, can easily kill Bigumam. Mother. Putting the flightless Kikyo on his back, Corazon jumped up, tears summoned a golden boat, stood at the bow. Doya Wang Sessamaru and others followed Corazon, heading towards Wanokuni. Let's go, explain it carefully, at least you want something? A brave and foolish guy, he was fooled by others with just a few words. An idiot like you is the first to die even in the coalition army. If you want to escape, you must at least. Ho, let's not talk about killing people, but dare to attack the king. It seems that this time, you can't relax so much, Orochimaru said hoarsely with a cold light flashing in his eyes. Seeing the back of Corazon leaving, Golden Lion stopped farming immediately and looked at the bleeding Bigumamu with sarcasm in his eyes. Katakuri and the others surrounded him in horror, checking Bigumamu's injuries. With a loud bang, Bigumamu lay heavily on the ground, and blood flowed all over the ground. Before the Golden Lion finished speaking, the air whirled for a while, and Afei walked out of it with a smile, and then a figure of Ju appeared on the ground. Corazon didn't pay attention to what happened next, but if Bigumam dared to attack him, he might never even think about fighting in this life. Bigumamu didn't speak, and looked at his chest in shock. His mouth was dry, and he wanted to say something, but he was choked back, and the moment he touched his chest slightly, a surge of blood spurted out from his chest. Chapter 109. Transforming the 35,000-kilometer elephant owner into a monster, third update. Advertisement. Chapter 109. Transforming the 35,000-meter elephant owner into a monster, third update. Sessamaru, if you use natural teeth, can you revive the two people I pointed to you earlier? Corazon raised his eyebrows, looked at Sessamaru who looked like a nobleman, and asked with great interest. At this moment, he has mastered all the abilities possessed by King Duya, including turning into a big Tengu. However, King Duya's strongest combat power lies in those three knives. Among them, the Iron Broken Fang represents the human world, and it can kill hundreds of monsters and smash hundreds of mountains with one swing. The Natural Tooth represents the heaven, with one swing it can save hundreds of people and kill hundreds of ghosts. And Kong Yunya summons the dead on behalf of the land, and can summon hundreds of ghosts with one wave. Only monsters with powerful monster power can use it. Corazon was thinking, if the impure world reincarnation index is used to revive people, and then the natural teeth are used, is it equal to the perfect resurrection of 790? Your Majesty, Tianshengye can only revive the dead who have just died. Although the mother and child seem to have just died, their bodies have already been destroyed, and Tianshengye can't do anything. Sesshomaru said calmly, half kneeling on the ground. That's right, Zephyr's wife is dead, and her body is just DNA plus impure world reincarnation. Corazon nodded thoughtfully, but he had some guesses in his heart and couldn't help but get excited. The body has been destroyed, so what if the body is cloned and the soul is transferred into it? Contemplating in his heart, Corazon raised his head after a while, and found that the golden ship he was driving was already approaching Wanokuna's domain. Corazon Rinnegan moved a deposit and discovered that the architecture of Wano-kuni is almost the same as that of the ancient Sengoku period, but at this moment, it has been caught in a war. The pirate group of Kaido of the Beasts slaughtered and killed those warriors. During the battle, Corazon even saw the figure of a Kainu, and couldn't help showing surprise. Did this B********** D belong to Shao Kang's life? Isn't this dead? Corazon muttered to himself, with a puzzled look on his face. There are normal people who are kicked to pieces and die from pain. No matter how tough a Kainu is, he will at least be unconscious for a long time. This life is really not ordinary. Your Majesty, do we need us to kill those evil spirits? There was a trace of killing intent in Sesshomaru's eyes. A long whip of energy appeared in his hand, and a little red light appeared from his body, and he said coldly. Those guys seem to have killed a lot of people, Do Yawang said with a frown. In the pirate group of Kaido of the Beasts, anyone has a strong murderous intent, and they are monsters, and they can see things that normal people cannot see, such as the resentment of death. Those guys have at least 100 human resentments on their bodies. If they were in their world, if they were targeted by these resentments, they would probably be eaten to the bone. Prepared to save people, but even a child can do it, it's too cruel. Kikyo's light voice contained a hint of anger, and he clenched the bow and arrow behind his back. Corazon glanced at Gigi, then at Wano-kuni who was caught in the flames of war, turned around and said lightly. Leave them alone, King Duya, feel the vitality of this sea area, we will go wherever is the strongest. Your Majesty. Kikyo was taken aback, biting his lower lip and looking at Corazon, with some pain in his eyes. He didn't understand why Corazon refused to save those people, since everyone in that country was slaughtered. Advertisement, hey. Corazon rubbed his head with a headache, that's why kind people have the most headaches. Fortunately, they were all evil forces before. Corazon turned his head, looked at the bloody scene of Wano-kuni, and said lightly. That country is more stubborn. It would be better for us to go after killing some people, otherwise, it would be troublesome enough to suppress them. Besides, Roger didn't even come over, so why should I bother myself? Wano-kuni is a closed country, never accepts outsiders, does not join the world government, and even marine ships cannot enter the country. The people inside are extremely stubborn. Even if he saves the country, he will only lose a good reputation. However, when he wants to conquer this country, those guys will not remember the kindness at this time, and maybe they will scold him for ulterior motives. Now Kazuki Oden, the crew member of the Roger pirate ship, even he has not come to save this country. If he saves, when Kazuki Oden comes back, who will remember him? Maximizing the benefits is what Corazon wants, gone. Although Corazon knew that the food that the elephant eats on weekdays is the sea crony of 0.1 seabed and the apples on the Sky Island, but he did not expect that it is 20,000 meters higher than the Sky Island. At this moment, Rayleigh received another call, and after listening to it, his face turned cold. I am now 1,000 meters away from the sea, but I have only reached half of the leg that is exposed to the sea. This sea area is about 4 kilometers, hiss. Corazon stepped on the golden boat and headed towards a huge life form far away in the sea area. Thinking about it, no matter how powerful the Elephant Lord is, he is still just an ordinary creature, and the Duya King and the others are already monsters that surpass ordinary animals. Although he didn't care much about the forces in the sea, but watching the empire built by Corazon grow stronger day by day, he inevitably felt a little sense of urgency in his heart. Hearing the news now, it's like rain sending nectar. P.S. The author specifically checked the elephant owner, and found that the data of One Piece showed that the food the elephant owner ate was indeed kelp from the sea and apples from the sky, plus some other information. It was confirmed that the elephant owner was in the 30,000 about 5 kilometers. Meanwhile, an unnamed island in New World. In a sea area far away from Wano-kuni, the golden ship stopped in midair, and Corazon looked at the 4 pillars in front of him in shock. Corazon gasped. The elephant in front of him was 30,000 meters tall, 20,000 meters taller than Sky Island. Okay, let's go to the pirate group of Kaido of the Beasts now. Roger stood up excitedly and said. Roger, the location of the last road sign has been confirmed. Pluton Rayleigh grabbed the phone bug excitedly and said, Shaki sent me a message just now, saying that the last road sign is where the Kaido of the Beasts is. As long as you get that with a road sign, we can find the big secret treasure. After being shocked for a long time, Corazon turned his head to look at Do Ya-Wang and Sesshomaru, and found that their eyes were very calm, and they were not overly shocked by the elephant owner's size. Asterisk. Thinking of this, Corazon licked his lips, pointed his index finger at the elephant owner, and asked a little excitedly. Do Ya-Wang, is there a way to transform this elephant into a monster? Great. Roger clenched his palms excitedly. Kikyo couldn't bear to glance at Wano-kuni, but didn't dare to disobey Corazon's order, so he could only sigh helplessly and followed Corazon's footsteps. Although it is a sky pillar, Corazon knows in his heart that this is one of the largest creatures in the pirate world, the elephant master's leg. Chapter 110 Fur Tribe, Kill Them All, 4th More. Advertisement Chapter 110 Fur Tribe, Kill Them All, 4th Update. Seeing this creature that is 20,000 meters taller than Sky Island, an idea instantly appeared in Corazon's mind. He wanted to subdue this elephant. Facing Corazon's gaze, King Do-Ya pondered carefully, then nodded and said, "Your Majesty, it is not difficult to transform this creature into a monster. As long as I send a little monster power over, I can turn it into a monster. But the problem is, this creature only has death and an inexplicable obsession in its heart. Even if it is converted into a monster, I am afraid it will choose to die after completing the obsession." Sesshomaru echoed. Converting a creature into a monster has nothing to do with its size. It can be done with a little pressure, but this creature's death will is too strong. Well, that's inevitable. Corazon nodded. After all, the Elephant Lord has survived for thousands of years in the history of the fur race, which is longer than the history of naval headquarters. After living for thousands of years in a world where the life expectancy is only about 100 years old, I am afraid that the Elephant 16 is already exhausted. What about erasing his memory? Corazon said after a moment of thought. After all, he does not need the memory of the Lord. Even if it is erased for 100 years, it has nothing to do with him. Your Majesty, this can be done. Do-Ya nodded respectfully and said. Things like erasing memories couldn't be easier for him, the most powerful monster in the Sengoku period. Okay, then wait a bit, go up and have a look first. You will transform this elephant into a monster later. Corazon said with excited eyes. Even if the Elephant Master transforms into a monster, even the weakest little monster suddenly changes its figure, 30,000 meters high, heavier than hundreds of islands, and it is enough to destroy everything. Immediately, Corazon stretched out his palm, and the golden ship sailed towards the sky quickly. Before the elephant owner transformed into a monster, he needed to take the fur tribe away. Whoosh! The golden light flashed, and Corazon flew onto the back of the elephant owner at an altitude of 30,000 meters almost within a few seconds by virtue of the gravity of the universal pull. Who are you? Get out of here and leave this land. As soon as Corazon arrived on the back of the elephant owner, he saw a group of werewolves with gray fur on their bodies, looking ferocious and extremely angry, looking at him angrily, cursing constantly, trying to drive Corazon away. Wait, what we're here for? Corazon held out his hand, smiled and wanted to say something, but was interrupted before he could finish. You are really here to attack the enemy here, get lost. A werewolf couldn't help it, his eyes were red, he jumped into the air suddenly, and swung his paw towards Corazon. Court death, Sesshomaru's eyes turned cold, and he swung his claws out. The blood-red blade light instantly cut the werewolf into 3 parts, and the blood spilled on the surrounding ground. What a disrespectful guy, you can't help but attack Zunwang, a bunch of barbarians. King Do-Ya's eyes were cold. If it wasn't for Sesshomaru's attack just now, he would have killed all these guys. The monsters here are really looking for death. Kikyo pointed the bow and arrow at the werewolves, and said in a cold voice. He attacked them without any explanation, especially Zunwang. Even Kikyo became angry. Do-Ya Wang, as the most powerful yokai in the Sengoku period, you are not a soft-hearted guy, are you? Advertisement Corazon looked at those fur tribes. His eyes seemed to contain an iceberg, and he was so angry that he almost burned the flames of demons. Kill them, Corazon said with a cold voice, like an iceberg. Yes. Do-Ya King responded respectfully, then put his hand on the iron broken fang, looked coldly at the fur tribes, pulled out the iron broken fang, and instantly turned it into the shape of a fang and a sword. Because of these guys, he was reprimanded by Zunwang, which filled King Do-Ya's heart with anger and killing intent. Boom! The moment the iron broken fang was pulled out, the violent wind in the sky seemed to find its owner, and it generally gathered on the iron broken fang, making the Fang Avenue form a white sword hundreds of meters long, and the violent cold wind continued to howl. In an instant, the few werewolves who would be the leader were beheaded, and the blood stained the iron broken teeth. Sure enough, it's the enemy, Lang Tang. You go and inform the tribe to let them come to support. Let's kill that human first. The leader of a werewolf roared, his eyes were blood red, and after he finished speaking, he ran on all fours, opened his fangs, avoided the front of Fighting Tooth King, and bit at Corazon. Windblade. King Do-Ya let out a low growl, and it exploded like a muffled thunder. The gust of wind was like a doomsday black storm, instantly cutting the surrounding forest into countless sections. Land. The werewolf headed by it looked blood red in his eyes, roared to the sky, and the static electricity crackled on his body, escaped the cold wind, and jumped directly onto the golden boat with his legs. A cheap thing. Sesshomaru and Inuyasha's eyes were cold. They were just some lowly things with animal blood. Ignore them and attack Zunwang directly. Just before Sesshomaru and Inuyasha shot, Corazon stretched out his palm, and the violent attraction instantly attracted the werewolf, and grabbed the werewolf's neck. Ah! The werewolf roared, and the static electricity on his neck spread to Corazon, but Corazon ignored all this, looked at him with cold eyes, and said in a cold voice. Originally, I came to this island just to subdue you, but now, I want to kill and subdue this 657, die. Crack. Under the angry eyes of the werewolf, Corazon directly cut off his neck and threw him off the golden boat. He knew that the fur race was xenophobic, but he couldn't help but kill him. If Corazon was really just an ordinary person, he would have died in just a moment. It really d me off so rarely. Corazon couldn't help sneering. Even if Doflamingo was caught and Marine made trouble for him, he wasn't as angry as he is today, let alone wanting to kill someone like this. Looking at the fur tribe running in the distance, Corazon waved his hand with cold eyes. My lords, kill them. If you don't accept it, then kill them until there is no one left, and let them bear the consequences of doing something wrong. Yes. Duyuwang, Sesshomaru, Inuyasha, Lingyue Shanji, and Kikyo respectfully responded, and the figures shot out instantly. Facing the rushing forward fur tribe, Inuyasha and Sesshomaru's eyes were red, and their claws crazily pierced through the hearts of one fur tribe after another. Kikyo stood on a tree, drew out the arrow with indifferent eyes, and shot one arrow after another, piercing the hearts of fur tribes one after another. A monster who hates humans so much dares to attack Zunwang, and uses the power of the whole family to kill Zunwang, leaving no one behind. Chapter 111 Advertisement Chapter 111 The Great Tengu's Courage to Suppress the Giant Elephant, 5th Change. You devil, why did you come to attack our fur tribe? We have already hidden in such a remote corner. Why do you humans still refuse to let us go? A female fur tribe with furry ears and an extremely angry face jumped a few steps, attacking Corazon with static claws. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the nearby Kikyo, bent his bow and set his arrows, aiming at the female fur tribe. But I saw that Corazon made a rare move, pinching the female fur tribe's neck, almost suffocating the female fur tribe member, struggling in midair in pain. Why'd I attack you, you ask? There was a trace of coldness in Corazon's eyes, leaning against the ear of the female fur tribe, he said softly. Then let me tell you, unlike the enemy, your killing regardless of the situation has completely enraged me, and the consequences are beyond my own expectation. Let me tell you, even when facing naval headquarters, I have never been so angry. I understand. Marine. The headquarters. The female fur tribe struggled and her eyes widened. This man actually said that he had never been so angry in front of naval headquarters. Who the hell is he? Crack. With a strong hand, Corazon pinched and broke the neck of the female fur tribe, threw her on the ground, and watched the killing below with cold eyes. There was a hint of surprise in Kikyo's eyes. Wang, just killed a beautiful woman like this? In her opinion, although the female fur tribe looks weird, according to the aesthetic point of view, it is based on the desire to conquer more interestingly. Why, Kikyo, do you think I'm a person who can't walk when I see a beautiful woman? Corazon looked at Kikyo, causing a look of embarrassment on the latter's face. She really thought so. Although she had just come to this world, Kikyo had seen at least 5 women from Corazon, and she thought Zunwang was that kind of unusually lustful womanizer. Although I like beautiful women, don't think too badly of me when it comes to this kind of thing, Corazon said lightly. The enemies he has encountered so far are all pure enemies, enemies of his own will, whether it is killing or conquering. He just treats them with a normal attitude and is not really angry. But the fur tribe, who came up and couldn't help but say that they would kill him, although there were reasons for xenophobia, this was not a reason. Just like Nami and others in the original world, they were kind enough to save people, but they were almost killed, and Luffy even fought with the fur tribe in the dark forest. Arrogant, savage, although loyal, it is only for the people they recognize. Corazon has no interest in pleasing a group of guys who want to kill him. Since he can't conquer or recover, he can make them fear by killing them and dare not be hostile to him. While speaking, Corazon waved his hand and killed a few more fur tribes who attacked. At this time, the surrounding forest had been completely destroyed and turned into a pool of blood. There will be no more fur tribes. Seeing this, Corazon jumped lightly onto the elephant master's back and walked lightly towards the center of the country. Kikyo respectfully followed behind Corazon, making up his mind not to say a word of intercession. She is just a priestess, and her duty is to protect human beings from being killed by monsters, but he knows that although war and killing are not a good thing, having a good king will be a blessing for human beings. Aloud. Shua. Scattering Soul Iron Claw, advertisement. Inuyasha waved his palm excitedly, his sharp claws slashed through the air, instantly chopping several fur tribes into pieces. Inuyasha, there are enemies coming, be careful not to die, Sesshomaru said coldly. A green demonic aura emerged from his hands. Poison China Claw. With a swing of his claws, dozens of roaring fur tribes were beheaded, and even their bodies were melted into a puddle of blood. You human beings dare to kill so many of our people, so die to me. An old-looking dog-shaped fur tribe roared angrily, and the static electricity in his hand slapped, instantly hitting Inuyasha's body. Inuyasha stepped back 3 steps, looking at this fur tribe in surprise. They're just some awful with animal blood, not even the weakest monsters, but they were able to repel him. Dog ears. After the dog-shaped fur tribe pushed Inuyasha back 3 more steps, he looked at the ears on Inuyasha's head in shock. His gaze turned cold instantly, and he roared angrily. You are also a fur tribe, you actually want to help humans attack us, you beast. Inuyasha's face turned black after being scolded, and he clenched his palms angrily. He is a fur tribe. Could he be the kind of garbage that even the lowest monsters can't look down on? Don't be so sentimental, miscellaneous, you and our blood, but there is a difference. Sesshomaru's cold voice sounded from behind the fur tribe, and the next moment, the white palm with sharp nails pierced the dog-shaped fur tribe's heart. It's too slow, Do-Ya Wang, Inuyasha, Sesshomaru, haven't you dealt with the resisting guys for a few hours? Corazon came over and said impatiently. One of the most powerful monsters in Sengoku period, he is still so slow to deal with some fur tribes, it really makes him impatient. Your Majesty, Do-Ya Wang's attack power is too strong, and they are worried about hurting the giant elephant. Kikyo explained from the side. That's too slow. Corazon looked at a huge tree like a whale. Behind the tree, thousands of fur tribes looked at him with killing intent. Stand back, Corazon said coldly. Shame appeared on Do Yuang's face, and he quickly retreated behind Corazon. His attacks were all destructive and powerful. If he used them, the giant elephant might be cut open with a huge wound, but no matter what, it was his negligence. When Inuyasha Sesshomaru and others backed away, Corazon, Li Wanghao, stretched out his hand coldly, aiming at the fur tribes, Devil's Bungchuan. Boom! Corazon took a step forward, punched heavily, hitting the air, and violent flames swept away. The whale-like trees instantly burst into flames, and the scorching sparks touched the fur tribes, and immediately ignited the flames. With screams, countless fur tribes rushed out. The flames of the devil couldn't tell how high the temperature was, even though it was separated by a layer of ground. The giant elephant roared in pain, the sound was harsh, and the ground occupied by Corazon's surge. Give me. Honestly, dig the grave. Corazon gradually turned into fangs the size of a thumb, his pupils stood upright, a trace of blood red spread, and with a sense of savagery, he stepped heavily on the giant elephant's back. Like a big tengu roaring, the violent pressure instantly stopped the giant elephant from roaring, and there was a trace of fear in the old eyes. Chapter 112 Shocked Kaido of the Beasts and Akainu, Chapter 6. Advertisement Chapter 112 Shocked Kaido of the Beasts and Akainu, Chapter 6. This is stronger than the deterrents I released, worthy of being a king. Sensing the monster energy released from Corazon's body, Do Yawang gasped and said in shock. Father, Zunwang is not just a demon spirit, is it? Sesshomaru said with a little shortness of breath as he resisted this momentum. Corazon glanced at the somewhat irresistible Inuyasha, withdrew his momentum, and looked coldly at the overwhelmed fur tribe. His aura is a combination of the evil spirit of the Fighting Tooth King, the magic power of the Flame Demon Natsu, the spiritual power of Shokuhou Masaki, and the Conqueror's Haki that he possesses. The superposition of so many abilities creates different oppression of Conqueror's Haki, which is stronger and can squeeze people's spirit to the point of collapse. Plop plop. Thousands of fur people who were still standing fell down with a thump, their faces were dull, and they looked like they had collapsed. Well, it's almost settled. After Corazon crushed all those fur tribes, he returned to his lazy state, leaned against a tree to rest, glanced at Do Yawang and said, after killing those guys, keep the children and send them to the Empire. Zhangpei sent. This generation of fur tribes, Corazon is unable to subdue them, but the next generation, with Orochimaru who is good at demagogy, Corazon believes that the next batch of fur tribes will definitely be as loyal as Kimimaro and integrate into the Empire. Thinking of this, Corazon couldn't help laughing. The scene of all nations that Bigimamu wants to present may really be presented in his empire. Yes. Do Yawang, Sesshomaru and the others respectfully responded, their figures flickered, and a light suddenly appeared. When the sound of killing stopped, Corazon tilted his head to look at the bloody ground, patted the giant elephant's skin, and said, big guy, spray some water to wash it off. Animals are more sensitive than humans. After the deterrence just now, the giant elephant didn't dare to disobey Corazon's order. It took a big mouthful of seawater and sprayed it directly into the sky. Seawater smashed down from the sky. Kikyo looked at the overwhelming waterflow in shock, then screamed. His face flushed was carried by Corazon on his shoulders, and he quickly returned to the golden boat. As a holy priestess, Kikyo is an existence that no one dares to profane, who dares to touch her body, and put her arms around her shoulders. It is indeed a huge sea current, Corazon said with a smile. It is true that the giant elephant has such a powerful body. The waterflow alone is more powerful than the water style of the ghost shark. Wang, can you put me down? Kikyo said while biting her lower lip with a flushed face. If it wasn't for Corazon who was holding her, Kikyo would have been angry a long time ago, but now, no matter what, she can't get angry, and some are just shy. Corazon nodded. He didn't like to force his subordinates very much, of course, if the subordinates voluntarily, that's another matter. 6 hours, relying on Kaido of the Beasts and Akainu and the others, the kingdom should be almost shaken. Corazon touched his chin, and smiled with a subtle arc at the corner of his mouth. Giant elephant, go south for me, go to meet your master. The giant elephant roared, lifted its legs, and marched towards Wano-kuni across several thousand meters of sea area. In just a few hours, the giant elephant had already crossed 2 sea areas and came to a location near Wano-kuni. Corazon clapped his hands in admiration. He was looking forward to the scene after transforming the giant elephant into a monster. With such a huge body, I'm afraid it only takes a few hours to go from the Empire to the naval headquarters. Advertisement Corazon thinks about it, standing on top of the giant elephant. When the time comes to King's Landing naval headquarters, when Kong and the others look up, they can't even see their own feet. That sight. Tisk tisk tisk, that's interesting. Giant elephant, I didn't expect you to come here, hurry up and help me fight back these enemies. Just as Corazon was falling into obsession, there was a roar from below. Although it was undetectable on the back of the giant elephant, Corazon still heard it, and immediately frowned and looked over. At an altitude of 30,000 meters, if Corazon hadn't undergone a series of enhancements, he might only be able to see an ocean. That is Mitsuda Oden's father, the ruler of Wano-kuni, Kazuki Sukiyaki. Looking at the man with the mustache and pigtails behind his back, Corazon thought to himself. Roar. The giant elephant roared, as if it understood Kazuki's words. The sky-shattering roar sounded, the thick trunk swung, and a gust of wind hit the downwind ground. Damn it. Where did such a monster come from? Kaido of the Beasts looked at Wano-kuni who was about to attack, clenched his fists, cursed viciously, and looked at the giant elephant angrily. He might not be able to stop such a monster with his nose down. Akainu, you come to block him. As long as you knock down Wano Kuni, I will go with you. Kaido of the Beasts shouted loudly. Are you an idiot? Akainu's face was gloomy. Such a giant elephant, even if he used his whole body to create magma, he might not be able to block it, and he didn't want to do things that were boring. The eyeballs of the people below almost popped out. This elephant is already old, and the skin of its body is said to be flesh, more like a piece of dead skin. As long as it has a strong force, it may be able to make this elephant fall. At that time, Kaido of the Beasts will definitely not let it fall. The elephant stood up. Listen everyone, take advantage of the elephant master's support, and drive these intruders out quickly. The Wano Kuni samurai also roared, rushed forward with long knives, and fought head-on with the members of the Kaido of the Beasts pirate group. Do you Wong, you go? Great, I didn't expect Bo to come over at this time. Following the sound, a handsome man wearing armor and 2 white scarves flew to the elephant owner with his feet on the fire cloud. Yes, your majesty, Allah. Corazon raised his brow lazily. After merging the template of Do-Ya Wong, he always felt sleepy. For the safety of Wano Kuni, Kazuki Sukiyaki can only sacrifice the elephant owner. After all, the elephant owner is so huge that it should not be a problem to be hit by some shells. Kazuki Sukiyaki had a look of surprise on his face. After hearing the order from Kaido of the Beasts, his face struggled for a moment, and then he stood firm and shouted. Damn Marine. Kaido of the Beasts cursed in a low voice, then turned his head and roared. Everyone, get ready to fight, aim at the elephant's leg, and all the shells will go there. Fire. That was tens of thousands of shells, and even the Marines used them to support them. It is not impossible to destroy a small country, but they were cut off with one knife. With a wave of Tai Sui Ya, thousands of shells exploded in midair. With a loud roar, members of the Kaido of the Beasts pirate group ignited the artillery fuse, and in an instant, thousands of shells were blasted out, and the target was the elephant master's feet. Really, don't forget that I asked you to come here when I didn't let you do it, please be quiet. Immediately afterwards, the fighting Tooth King roared, his body swelled strangely, his teeth turned into fangs, his palms turned into sharp claws, he stepped on 4 clouds of fire, stood in midair, and punched the giant elephant's trunk that was about to swing down. To the side, there was a loud explosion like a muffled thunder. Chapter 113 Yuuzhan of the Wind runs through the body of Kaido of the Beasts open black lens bracket 7th close black lens bracket. Advertisement Chapter 113 Yuuzhan of the Wind runs through the body of Kaido of the Beasts open black lens bracket 7th close black lens bracket. The muffled thunder-like sound came down from the sea several thousand meters above, really roaring like thunder. Who is that, who blocked that monster's nose with a punch? Kaido yelled with his eyes wide open. Even for him, it would be difficult to block the elephant's trunk. Who is that silver-haired man? Akainu shook his head, and Marine had never heard of this strong man, but with such a powerful demon fruit power from the Phantom Beast, it stands to reason that there would be no traces of it. It can't be such a coincidence, can it? Kizaru stood on a house in the distance, his eyelids were twitching, he didn't know why, he always had an ominous premonition in his heart, and this ominous premonition seemed to have come to many YRJ. Corazon, you are everywhere, right? Kizaru swallowed and thought. The deal that Marine assisted Kaido of the Beasts was concluded only a dozen hours ago, and logically speaking, it would definitely not be that fast. Elephant, be honest with me. Do-Ya Wong turned into a big tengu with several tens of meters, with 4 legs burning fire, stepping in midair revealing ferocious fangs. His voice was dull, but it gave people a deep sense of oppression. The elephant master's body trembled, and fear appeared in his eyes. From the tengu who was not as big as his fingernails, the elephant master felt a deep sense of oppression. The oppression of the blood was like a natural enemy. Lord Elephant, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and follow your duty, and trample all these guys to death. Kazuki roared loudly, his face extremely anxious. If Shangzu does not act, based on his words alone, Kizaru Akainu Kaido of the Beasts is not the opponent at all. Now the 4 important areas of Wano Kuni's main island, Jiuli, Nozomi, Tuon, and Linghao, have been lost. If there is no strong support, Wano Kuni may really be destroyed. Why did that strong man help Kaido of the Beasts, a brutal guy? What happened to Zou's fur tribe? Could it be that he was murdered by this strong man? Beside Mitsuda Sukiyaki, a woman looking at the giant elephant, he said worriedly. Zou. Hearing the woman's words, Mitsuda Sukiyaki reacted and looked anxiously at the giant elephant. Wano Kuni's only ally is Zou, and it is the only ally. If something happens, Wano Kuni will not have a single support. Master Elephant, hurry up and drive these intruders away, and then I will go to support Zou, Mitsuda Sukiyaki shouted anxiously. Hearing this, the giant elephant roared, overcame the fear in his heart, and smashed down his thick nose again, and the target was King Do-Ya. I really don't know the lesson. If it weren't for Zun Wang, I would have killed such a lowly creature like you, Do-Ya Wang said coldly. He is a monster, a creature that likes to kill by nature, no matter how kind his character is, his killing heart will never stop. This can be seen from Inuyasha, although Inuyasha is kind, but still has a cruel character of monsters, only humans want to attack him, Inuyasha will still kill them all, and do not show mercy. Boom. Fighting Tooth King slapped the giant elephant's trunk with one paw, and the violent monster power spread out from the claws. With a bang, the giant elephant screamed in pain, and the waves slammed on the coast by 2 steps backwards, which were thousands of meters high. Good. Kaido of the Beasts roared excitedly, with excitement on his face, although he didn't know who the Do-Ya King was, but being able to help him stop this giant elephant would undoubtedly delay him, so he couldn't help laughing excitedly, got up and said, "That strong man, thank you very much, I will thank you for the child later." King Duya's eyes turned cold. A gust of wind blew past him, he transformed into a human form, pulled out his iron-broken teeth, and shot over in an instant. He had never heard that it was this guy who wanted to make the king his enemy, and now he still wanted to thank him. Kaido of the Beasts shrank his pupils, although he didn't know what was going on, but he felt the piercing killing intent. There was absolutely no fake, this guy wanted to kill him. Advertisement quickly raised the mace to cover armament hockey. Kaido of the Beasts roared, and the mace smashed over. Thunder 8 trigrams. Wind wound. King Do-Ya clenched Tai Sui-Ya with both hands, and slashed down heavily with his sword. The violent cold wind entangled Tai Sui-Ya, as if this space was dominated by Tai Sui-Ya, the 3 white wind blades, in all Beast's guy in the unbelievable gaze. He slashed heavily on the mace, making a sharp and ear-piercing friction sound. I cut off the mace covering armament hockey. Kizaru's eyes widened in disbelief. Bah! The ear-piercing sound made the surrounding pirates and samurai involuntarily cover their ears, but none of them closed their eyes. Instead, their eyes burst open, looking at the screaming Kaido of the Beasts in disbelief. Ask for flowers. Hey, are you kidding? That is the strongest creature, Kaido of the Beasts, someone said in disbelief. Kaido of the Beasts clutched his chest in pain. 3 wounds that almost penetrated his body appeared on his chest, only 1 finger away from his heart. Boom! Boom! Yuzan's wind blade pierced Kaido of the Beast's body and crashed into the walls of houses in the distance, destroying countless houses of Wano Kuni. Don't compare me to you, human, Do-Ya said with cold eyes. Thump! Kaido of the Beasts half kneeled on the ground with a plop, blood poured out like a fountain, and it couldn't stop at all. In just a few seconds, a pool of blood gathered beside Kaido of the Beasts. Zero Mitsuda Sukiyaki was dumbfounded, looked at Kaido in shock, and then looked at Do-Ya Wong and shouted in his heart. What is this monster for? Why does everyone hit when it becomes crazy? It's okay to block the giant elephant, he can think that it is the accomplice of Kaido of the Beasts. But what's the point of helping them hack Kaido, the sea monster, so badly and almost to death? Could it be that he's a lunatic? Hey, Paluzolino, I feel something is wrong, let's retreat first. Kizaru turned into a flash of light and appeared next to Akainu, and said with a twitching corner of his mouth. He dared to guarantee that this Do-Ya King was definitely connected with Corazon, and only that guy's subordinates would dare to be so unscrupulous. What nonsense are you talking about? Let's not talk about Kaido of the Beasts. If that guy can be brought to Marine, at least it will be a powerful support, thanks to you, Marine Vice Admiral. Akainu waved his hand impatiently and said, then he looked excitedly at Do-Ya Wong. If he could bring this strong man to Marine, Corazon would be nothing. At that time, this powerhouse plus their Marine powerhouse will be enough to suppress Corazon. Just when Kizaru had a bitter look on his face, a playful voice came from the sky. Brother Kizaru, long time no see. After hearing the voice, everyone looked over one after another. Looking at Corazon's figure, Do-Ya Wong quickly retracted iron-broken fang into its sheath, half kneeling on the ground. Your Majesty, why do you need to act here? I am enough. P.S. I don't know if you have watched the Inuyasha theatrical version of Tianxia Overbearing Sword. The author feels that if the Fighting Tooth King is alive, there will be no such thing as Naraku. Chapter 114 The Mammoth's Arm was bitten off, first update. Advertisement Chapter 114 The Mammoth's Arm was bitten off, first update. Your Majesty, Mitsuda Sukiyaki was shocked. In his opinion, Do-Ya King is already very strong. After all, it is rare in the world of pirates to be able to catch the elephant owner's nose empty-handed. Not to mention that when Do-Ya Wong shot without knowing the purpose just now, the 3 wind blades were almost sharper than his sword energy, and armament hockey was cut off in an instant, and his son, Mitsuda Oden, might not be his opponent either. However, such a powerful man, when the blonde man wearing a purple cloak came out, he half kneeled on the ground without hesitation, which really scared him enough. Well, Fighting Tooth King, this big guy and Kaido of the Beasts, I will leave it to you, and the demonization will proceed quickly. Corazon said with a smile. He couldn't help but want to watch 680. What kind of scene would it be like to transform a huge monster at 30,000 meters into a monster? Would it break the sky? Yes, Your Majesty. Fighting King respectfully responded, and then nodded to Sesshomaru and Inuyasha behind Corazon. The two understood each other and looked at Kaido of the Beasts, as well as those martial kings. Dog ears, why are you fur tribes fighting as Wano Kuni? When Inuyasha and Sesshomaru came out, Mitsuda Sukiyaki's eyes widened suddenly, and he pointed at Inuyasha's ear in shock just like the fur tribe before. There are countless races in the pirate world, but apart from the Murlocs, the fur race is probably the only one with animal characteristics. Inuyasha has silver hair, dog ears, and a vivid dog monster. If you look closely, the same is true for Sesshomaru and Do-Ya Wong. Could it be that Zou is going to be our enemy? Stop using your brain that breaks through the sky? Corazon lazily interrupted Mitsuda Sukiyaki's words, with a playful look in his eyes, and pointed to the angry 3 people, Fighting Tooth King, Inuyasha, and Sesshomaru. Calling them fur tribe in front of a group of big monsters, Corazon wanted to laugh when he thought about it. This is the biggest insult to the big monsters, and there are people dancing on the graves. If you talk about those half-orcs, they are already dead, so of course they won't come to help you, but you still suspect them after they die. It's really a little wrong. Inuyasha stretched out his palm angrily. What, Zo, you actually killed him? Mitsuda Sukiyaki seemed to be hit by a thunderbolt from the blue sky. His face defecated and he took a few steps back. He almost passed out without taking a breath. The situation was even worse than he imagined. Even if Zo was his enemy, Mitsuda Sukiyaki never imagined such a bad situation. After all, even if Zo was his enemy, it was only a part of the people, but all of them were wiped out. He dare not even think about it. Besides, we are not that kind of lowly creatures, humans. Sesshomaru waved his arms coldly, and a purple poisonous gas began to spread along his feet. Don't touch that poisonous gas. If you touch it, you will definitely die. After only a few seconds, there were samurai and pirates screaming in horror. As long as the poisonous gas was inhaled, it would penetrate into the internal organs and die on the spot. Get out of here, at worst. Let's get out of here, and stop releasing your poisonous gas. A mammoth with a height of several tens of meters roared. Seeing the poisonous gas spreading, it rushed over violently, trying to fly the killing pill. Advertisement, HMPH, human beings who don't know how to live or die. Sesshomaru let out a cold snort, his teeth grew into fangs, his limbs grew into claws, his white hair fluttered in the wind, and violent poison gas spread out from his mouth. This poisonous gas is stronger than that miasma, please don't inhale it, run away, Fukajak yelled in fear. Facing the big Tengu transformed into Sesshomaru, his heart trembled involuntarily, as if he had encountered a natural enemy, and the poisonous gas was corroding the soles of his feet, and a bone-piercing pain came from his feet. No, I'm not an opponent. Jack the Drow swallowed in horror, and originally planned to attack Sesshomaru, but at this moment he completely gave up this idea, turned around and was about to flee towards the coastline. Boss Kaido, let's run away too. Those guys are not human at all. I have never seen the same devil fruit before. It must be some kind of research result of Corazon. Let's leave here and join forces with Marine to fight against that demon. Kui taking 2 steps back in horror, he said anxiously to Kaido of the Beasts who was half kneeling on the ground bleeding. Boss Kaido, did you faint? Quinn found that Beast Guy didn't reply to his words, turned his head in horror, and pushed Kaido of the Beasts anxiously. Facing Corazon, even Marine will not make a move. If this continues, getting caught is a trivial matter, and you might die. Brother Quinn, save me quickly. I saw Sesshomaru stepping on the air, and ran over in a few steps. The fire cloud stepped on was extremely fast, and before Jack the Drow could react, he threw him down. He opened his bloody mouth and bit the huge mammoth's shoulder, biting the latter with a scream, and fell to the ground with a bang. Hiss. The surrounding warriors gasped when they saw this scene. They all knew Jack the Drow's strength. Although the size is not very big, its destructive power is astonishing. Even Mitsuda Sukiyaki must be careful against it, but now, he was thrown to the ground by a big Tengu at will. Boss Kaido, Brother Quinn, save me. Jack the Drow's voice was extremely tragic, especially when Sesshomaru's teeth bit deeply into Jack the Drow's shoulder, almost shattering the bone. The scream was almost numb to the heart. Human, who will save you? Sesshomaru let out a cold growl, raised his head, and pressed Jack the Drow's other arm on the ground with one paw, with killing intent in his eyes, which made Jack the Drow feel chills in his heart, and he couldn't help screaming 5.7 loudly. Brother Quinn, if you don't come to save me, I'm really going to die. Jack the Drow looked at the fangs biting his throat, and shouted for help in despair. I see, Quinn's face was extremely ugly, and Kaido's boss is now in a semi-comatose state. If he doesn't save him, the drought will really kill him. Wind wound. Before Quinn could make a move, King Duya raised Tiashai with cold eyes, and swung his knife down. The violent cold wind formed 3 wind blades, and instantly destroyed the building in front of him. Damn, don't give me a chance at all. Quinn cursed with an ugly face, grabbed Kaido of the beast's legs and quickly jumped to the distance. However, he still couldn't escape the scope of the wound of the wind, and was slashed on the body with a knife. The blood flashed, and the palm was cut off directly. Chapter 115 Fearful Mitsuda Sukiyaki, Second Advertisement. Chapter 115 Fearful Mitsuda Sukiyaki, Second Update. Hey, Sesshomaru, don't kill that guy yet, I have something to do with his life. Seeing that Sesshomaru's fangs had penetrated deeply into Jack the Drow's throat, Corazon waved his hand and said, the empire he is building now is not a lonely island in the ocean, but a continent formed by the fusion of hundreds of islands. Its scale is several times wider than that of the Red Line. With such a vast territory, Corazon intends to build bridges, and cities need manpower. After thinking about it carefully, Corazon's eyes can't help but shine. These people of the pirate group of Kaido of the Beasts. Most of them are Zone Demon Fruit Power, good coolies. Yes, Your Majesty. Duya Wong and Sesshomaru responded respectfully, released the fangs in their mouths, and retracted the iron-broken teeth into the sheath. Jack the Drow breathed a sigh of relief. For a moment just now, he really thought he was going to die. However, before he could rejoice for a few seconds, he felt dizzy and fainted with a blue face. Sesshomaru gave him a cold look, and kicked Jack the Drow to the edge of the port. His fangs have pierced 16 to Jack the Drow's neck, not to mention the lethality. That berserk poisonous gas is not something that Jack the Drow can bear. Corazon, what are you doing here? Kizaru asked with a twitching corner of his mouth. Did he go out without burning incense and worshipping Buddha? Let him meet this plague god again. Kizaru's heart was a little broken, and he remembered that no matter what time and place he met, as long as he met Corazon, nothing good would happen. Either Marine was defeated or he was taken prisoner. Even the last time, Momosagi was snatched away by Corazon's calculations. For this reason, Crane Vice Admiral has not given him a good face since that day. Well, I heard that someone is going to attack my target, so I came here to see who is so capable. I didn't expect to find that Marine and the pirates joined forces as soon as I came here. It really surprised me, Corazon said with a smile. Kizaru smiled awkwardly. He didn't know what to say. Marine and pirate joined forces. It's all because of you. You said your target. Could it be that your target is Wano Kuni? Akainu said with an ugly face. You must know that although Wano Kuni has not joined the world government, its heritage is definitely not inferior to any other country. Coupled with the fact that the Mitsuda clan has the ability to decipher the text of history, Akainu couldn't help but clench his hands just thinking about it. The remnants of history, no matter what, cannot be known by Corazon. That's right. Corazon twitched his lips. It's enough to have one country in this world. It's the best decision for everyone. What do you think, Mitsuda Sukiyaki? Corazon turned his head to look at Mitsuda Sukiyaki and asked indifferently. Although it was a question sentence, it was so affirmative that Mitsuda Sukiyaki couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva, feeling extremely bitter in his heart. This devil had no intention of seeking his opinion at all, and today he is determined to occupy their country. Marine, you won't watch this thief attack us, will you? Mitsuda Sukiyaki gritted his teeth and said, my son has rushed over here with Roger and his members, and it won't take long to come to support. As long as you can help me stop this guy, then I will persuade my son to join yours. Akainu and Kizaru's eyes lit up at the same time. Roger Pirates, advertisement afterwards. Kizaru's eyes dimmed. Although the Roger Pirates are an extremely powerful temptation, they still have to have the life to invite them. If you fight against Corazon today, maybe your bones will be cold tomorrow. Even if Roger agrees, what's the use? Roger Pirates, how long will it take for them to get here? Akainu thought for a while, then became firm and asked in a deep voice. Akainu, you are crazy. The whole marine is no match. Now there are only 2 of us left here. Do you want to die? Kizaru grabbed Akainu's clothes and roared anxiously. No matter how you look at the situation on the field, it is extremely unfavorable to them. In this situation, if you are against Corazon, it is not a dead end for yourself. Look at what you look like. Akainu slapped Kizaru's hand away impatiently, pointing at Dugawang and Sessamaru. It can be seen from the battle just now that those guys don't understand armament hockey. As long as we delay for some time, we can buy time for the Roger Pirates to get a powerful boost. What we lack now is this. Now he has contacted all the pirates who have a little strength in the sea, but so far, only the pirates have repeatedly agreed. If this continues, Akainu is worried that they will only be able to deal with Corazon at that time, and even if they win, it will definitely be a miserable victory, and it is okay to pay some risks for this. You're gambling with your life, Akainu. You've lived enough. I haven't lived enough yet. Kizaru looked at Akainu and cursed. He actually gathered all his hopes on a pirate, and blocked him with Roger's strength and speed. If he wins, he can get at most 1 support. If he loses, I'm afraid he will erect a monument in Wano Kuni. Kizaru's face was ashen, and he wanted to leave, but Akainu, this time, came here under the order of Naval Headquarters. Even Naval Headquarters had no right to interfere. He could not disobey at all. For a moment, he couldn't help being bitter. Mitsuda Sukiyaki, get your men ready. Let's delay time together. Akainu turned his head and warned, but before he finished speaking, he heard a voice from behind. His pupils shrank, and he quickly ran forward a few steps, feeling like his heart was overwhelmed. Really, I originally thought that pirates would do such a thing, but I didn't expect that Marine would also take the initiative to cooperate with the enemy. Corazon's voice suddenly came from behind him, with a playful look on his face. Especially you, Mitsuda Sukiyaki, Akainu. How many people have been killed and how many people from the 197 country? You can still show your intentions. I am really disappointed. When did you come here? Mitsuda Sukiyaki didn't care about Corazon's words at all, and asked in shock. Just now, he only felt that Corazon appeared in a flash, and the speed was so fast that he didn't even notice it with the naked eye. Although he has also heard of Corazon's reputation, but in the end, he only thinks that he is a powerful pirate. After all, they Wano Kuni do not communicate with the outside world, and the only thing they can hear is the words of the merchant ships that come and go. Of course I came here like this, idiot. A cold light flashed in Corazon's eyes, and with a flash, he disappeared in place. Blinking technique. Where? Mitsuda Sukiyaki's eyes widened, and Akainu covered the surrounding sea area with observation hockey, but they didn't notice anything. Of course it's here. Corazon released the influence of the vector control, instantly let Mitsuda Sukiyaki gasp, and drew his knife at lightning speed to slash backwards. It was him again. Idiot, so if you say you are ugly, you have to study more, otherwise you won't even be able to grasp the information. Corazon sneered, ignored the batch of long knives, bent his fingers, and flicked them on Mitsuda Sukiyaki's forehead.